Hey y'all, welcome back. My name's Katie, this is Dark Side of the Truth, and we're now friends.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
According to popular theory, there's a chapter of the Bible that was purposely excluded from the Rolodex for over 1,000 years. Well, at least as far as the Western world is concerned. This chapter, or book, claims that there was a time when the world was so corrupted, so full of violence, and so packed with forbidden knowledge that God himself grieved for having made mankind. Now, this is not your typical Bible story or Sunday school lesson by any means. And if you haven't guessed it yet, the book I'm talking about is the Book of Enoch. The truths it holds are so shocking, they allegedly shake every doctrine the institutions that control our world try to enforce, revealing a time when the earth was drowning in chaos, and the line between human and something far darker was blurred. Before the flood, humans may not have been the only ones walking the earth. According to the Book of Enoch, some of what walked among us wasn't just dangerous, but it may have been inhuman. Some might even say an abomination. So here's the deal. Today we're diving into the Book of Enoch, and that is basically a story of angels who broke their sacred vows, giants who walked the earth, forbidden knowledge that humans weren't ready for, and the truth about the world before the flood. And even after the flood, really. Everything I cover in this video will be step by step, fully explained, just like I always do. So that by the end of this video, you'll understand not just what happened, but why it matters. Quick disclaimer real quick, and then we'll get started. Everything that we're covering comes from the Book of Enoch, historical records, and ancient texts. Some interpretations are my own, and I will always make it clear when something is an inference versus a literal translation. Nothing here is meant to tell you exactly what to believe. We're simply exploring the story, the history, and the lessons that it holds. So let's start at the very beginning, with Enoch himself, the man chosen to witness secrets that no mortal had ever seen, and the one tasked with recording the truths of heaven and earth. Now, just full disclosure, we're not reading it word for word because I don't know about you, but biblical language straight up confuses the hell out of me. So instead, I've done the research for you, pieced it together, and then this is my interpretation of that research and a summary of what I've learned. I'm just going to explain it in plain language or basic English so it's easier for everybody to understand and keep up with. I'm just going to throw it at you we're a couple of friends hanging out and having a deep conversation. Now, some quotes are going to be direct from the text because obviously I don't want to interpret certain things, but most of what you're hearing is just me breaking it down so that it actually makes sense. Now, I'm definitely not perfect and I have never claimed to be. So if you catch something off or something that needs more clarification, please by all means drop a comment. I love learning from you guys and your input definitely helps me get it right. So with that being said, I think that's enough talking. Let's get into it. Roll the intro.
They hear, we sleep, the alarms going off, beep, beep. Time to wake up to the deceit. All reality's made up by the elite.
Let's begin this video off, of course, with who was Enoch. Enoch was born into a world already teetering on the edge of chaos.
All right, let's talk about the two Enochs. Now, Cain had a son named Enoch, but we're going to skip over to the one that Seth had. Seventh from Adam, there's Enoch. He is the man that never died. What does that mean? He was translated. He walked with God for 365 years, had sons and daughters, of which Methuselah, who was Noah's grandfather, lived to be 969 years old. But at the age of 365 years, because of his righteous character, okay, that's what got him in heaven. He never saw death. He was just snatched up right into heaven. And that's Enoch. He's mysterious, but very cool.
He was the great-grandson of Adam, a child of Seth's lineage. Seth's line, of course, being the last line of people that are still walking with God, while the rest of humanity drifted into darkness. By the time that Enoch was born, Cain's descendants had descended into violence, lust, and rebellion. Cities rose in ambition, but were built on metaphorical blood. Idols were carved representing false gods, and the songs of worship that once lifted humanity towards heaven were slowly fading into silence. People forgot how to look up. They forgot how to listen. They forgot how to let God in. From the very beginning of his life, Enoch was very different. While other children ran and played, caught up in fleeting pleasures, Enoch prayed. Morning and night, his voice rose like a tether between earth and heaven, his soul reaching beyond the mundane world. Scripture tells us that he, quote, walked with God for 300 years. Not a casual stroll like we would just do walking down the street, but walked with God in love and obedience, living a life full of rhythm with the divine, in trust, in love, and in awe. Very similar to a son walking with his father. Even as a boy, Enoch saw the hidden battle forming beneath ordinary life, a war of light and darkness that would determine the fate of mankind. One day, God spoke directly to him. Enoch, I have chosen you. You will see what no mortal has seen. You will write what no mortal has written. Your words will endure until the end of time. From that moment forward, Enoch became the scribe of heaven. Angels descended to guide him. Visions unfolded before his eyes, showing him things like the layers of heaven, the movements of the stars, the destiny of the fallen angels, and the trajectory of humankind's future. Everything that he witnessed, he recorded. The Book of Enoch was not exaggeration or myth. It was testimony, warning, and promise. Once Enoch completed his writings, he entrusted the book to his son, charging him to protect it, saying, quote, these are not my words. They are God's. Guard them carefully. Enoch himself, at least according to the story, did not pass away as everyday normal mortals do. According to the story, the heavens opened, and he was taken, a living testament to the divine connection between earth and sky, and between Yahweh and Enoch. The Book of Enoch remained in Ethiopia, preserved hand copy by hand copy, faithfully transmitted and passed down for centuries. For over 1,000 years, most of the world forgot about it, especially over here in the West. In the West, it was quietly removed, or maybe never even included, because church councils, debates over doctrine, and the rapid spread of new theological systems determined that the Book of Enoch was too vivid, too challenging, and too difficult to explain. It told the story of angels who sinned, of giants who roamed the earth, and of forbidden knowledge being spread throughout all of humanity. So it didn't fit neatly into the doctrines that the institutions wanted to teach. Yet the book survived, and its truths would one day resurface.
You know that Enoch was a real powerful man because he's talked about in the Bible, yet his book is not in the Bible. It was left out by accident on purpose.
So it remains, hand copied generation after generation in Ethiopia, like I just said. And for over 1,000 years, most of the world forgot about its existence, at least on the western, side of the world. Then explorers in the 1800s discovered it, astonished at its richness and depth and the truths that it held. So according to the story, they took it back to Europe and made copies of it and translated it to English and began, passing it out and sharing it. Then later, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, written in Aramaic, and if you don't know, that is the language that Jesus spoke. And the Book of Enoch was also contained within these Dead Sea Scrolls, and every word of it matched the Ethiopian version perfectly.
While the Book of Enoch was certainly interesting, it was dismissed by Muslims, Jews, and Christians and not considered part of the Bible. After all, it was hidden away on a mountain in Ethiopia. How important could it really be? If the Book of Enoch was truly scripture, there would be more copies of it, but there weren't. But 150 years later, that would change. In 1947, near the ancient settlement of Qumran, a young shepherd happened upon a cave. He was looking for a stray goat and thought it could have wandered in. The boy tossed a rock in the cave, hoping to scare the goat out. Instead, he heard the sound of pottery breaking. Within the cave were clay jars filled with ancient scrolls, almost 1,000 manuscripts. The scrolls cover every part of the Hebrew Bible, and there amongst the well-known books was the Book of Enoch. In fact, in ancient times, the Book of Enoch was so widely read and regarded, 11 copies of it were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were intact, complete, and perfectly matched the text of the Ethiopian Bible.
Enoch's writings endured. A bridge between heaven and earth, a warning of corruption, and a testament to God's mercy and justice had survived. His words had made it. And it is one hell of a story to understand. Like, Enoch's story is so much more than just history. It is a map of morality, a lens into divine order, and a reminder that knowledge, devotion, and obedience can carry weight far beyond mortal understanding. It sets the stage for what's to come. The Watchers, the Giants, the forbidden knowledge, and the chaos that will test the very fabric of the world. According to the Book of Enoch, the corruption that eventually led to the Great Flood did not begin with humanity alone. Long before the waters ever rose, something else had began to unfold behind the scenes. Something that would slowly alter the course of human history. The Book of Enoch tells us that God placed certain angels upon the earth. They were not sent as rulers, and they were not meant to interfere directly with human civilization. That point was very clear. Their purpose was much simpler, and yet incredibly important. They were meant to watch. As humanity was no longer living in the Garden of Eden, the Book of Enoch tells us that Yahweh wanted, angels to watch over humanity. And these angels were known as the Watchers. Their role was exactly what their name suggests: to observe humanity as it developed, to ensure that mankind stayed within the order that God had established for creation, and of course, to report what they saw. At this point in history, humanity was still young. Civilization was only beginning to form, and small communities were spreading across the land. Families were growing, and people were learning how to live together on a planet that was still largely untouched. And the Watchers stood at the edge of it all. They observed the growth of cities. They watched generations rise and fall. They saw humanity learning, building, and multiplying across the earth. In many ways, they were like guardians posted at the borders of creation itself. But the Book of Enoch suggests that something unexpected began to happen as time passed. The Watchers were not simply observing humanity from a distance anymore. Over time, their attention began to focus on something very specific: the daughters of men, human women. The text does not describe this as a passing curiosity or just like a momentary distraction. Instead, it describes something that slowly grew over time. The Watchers began to look upon the daughters of humanity, and they noticed their beauty, their divinity, and the love and care and grace that they had in their heart when caring for their babies. And that admiration gradually turned into something deeper, something far more dangerous. Now this is where it becomes important to remember what these beings actually were. They were not humans. They were not mortal. They were heavenly beings created for a completely different role in the structure of creation. Their existence operated under different laws and different boundaries entirely. And crossing that boundary to form relationships with human beings would mean breaking the order that God had established between heaven and earth. Yet that idea had already taken root in their subconscious. The Book of Enoch tells us that eventually 200 of these Watchers gathered together. They traveled to a mountain in the northern region of the land, a mountain that the text specifically names Mount Hermon. Now, mountains often carry symbolic weight in ancient writings, because they are places where heaven and earth seem to meet. Places of decision, revelation, and sometimes even rebellion, just like we're going to see here. And according to the Book of Enoch, Mount Hermon became the setting for one of the most consequential decisions ever made by heavenly beings. The 200 Watchers gathered there together, and among them was a leader. His name was Semyaza. It was Semyaza who spoke first. He acknowledged what all of them were already thinking, that the path that they were considering taking, mating with humans and taking human wives, was dangerous. What they were talking about doing was not a small act of disobedience. It would be a direct rebellion against the authority of God, and there would surely be consequences. But Semyaza's greatest concern was not necessarily the punishment itself. His fear was that when the moment actually came to act, some of the others might lose their nerve. Some might back out, leaving only a few to bear the consequences alone. And so he proposed something that he thought was ingenious. If they were going to cross this line, they would do it together. Not one or two of them, all of them. The Book of Enoch says that the Watchers then made a pact. They swore an oath together on Mount Hermon, binding themselves to the decision that they were about to make. None of them would turn back. None of them would abandon the others. Whatever came as a result of their rebellion, they would face it together. 200 heavenly beings standing on a mountain, binding themselves to a promise that would alter the future of the world forever. Let me just note here, Semyaza, the leader who's convincing them to come off of Mount Hermon and go take, human wives and all that. His name is said to mean heaven has seen, right? So the irony of that is 1000% not lost on me. I just want to jump in here and say that real quick. A being whose very name suggests that heaven or God sees all is the one who's leading this rebellion against both heaven and God. What? Craziness. It's just crazy. Even when they rebel, they still stick to their namesake. You know what I mean? They still stick to what they were created for, whether it's for good or evil. You have a purpose and they can't go without that purpose because nothing happens without God's permission. It reminds me very much of that story in the Bible where God is casting the demons out and the demons are let us go into the pigs, right? Because they can't just go into the pigs. If they could just go into the pigs, they would just be cast out and go into the pigs, but they can't. They need God's permission to go into the pigs. So they're let us go into the pigs. And then they get cast into the pigs and then we know what happens. They make the pigs go crazy and they run straight off the cliff, right? But I just thought that was very interesting. It's even when you turn away from God, these watchers, you still end up carrying out what your namesake was and what you were created for. Crazy. And once that oath was spoken, there was no turning back. According to the Book of Enoch, that moment sealed the rebellion. The Watchers descended from Mount Hermon, leaving behind the place where heaven had once met earth, and stepped fully into the world of humanity. And with that decision, the course of human history quietly began to change. Because what would happen next had never happened before. And the consequences of that choice were about to reshape the entire world forever.
They say curiosity killed the cat. But explain this one to me. The Book of Enoch said there was 200 fallen angels sent to Earth. And scientists say Earth has about 200 impact craters.
When the Watchers descended from Mount Hermon, they did not simply walk among humanity as observers. They crossed a boundary that had never been crossed before. The Book of Enoch tells us that these fallen angels took human women as wives, not symbolically and not metaphorically, but the text presents this as a literal union between heavenly beings and the daughters of mankind. And from those unions, children were born. But they were not ordinary children.
And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. Enoch chapter 6, verse 1.
According to the Book of Enoch, the offspring of these relationships between, angelic beings and human women were something entirely different from the humans around them. And being that, angels can't create other angels, they weren't exactly, angelic beings either. The text calls them the Nephilim, or beings described as giants who would grow far beyond the size and strength of normal men. Now, depending on the translation, the exact height of the Nephilim varies. Some versions describe them in measurements that would make them dozens of feet tall. while others simply emphasize their overwhelming size and power without attaching a specific number to it. But regardless of the exact figure, the message of the text is unmistakable. And according to the Book of Enoch, their abnormal nature was evident from the very beginning, of their lifetimes. When the Nephilim were first born, they were not the size of ordinary infants. The text suggests that they entered the world enormous, already comparable in size to full-grown human men. Now imagine for a second what that must have looked like to the people living at that time. These angelic beings come down from the mountain and take wives, right? And they get these women pregnant. And the people at the time would have understood that these watchers were angelic beings because the text says that some of them had wings. So then these women have babies with these angelic beings, and when the child is born, it's already the size of an adult. To ancient humanity, this may not have looked like a natural event. It probably would have looked very supernatural, or something that seemed to blur the line between heaven and earth. And at first, many humans may not have even viewed these giants as monsters at all. The initial reaction may have been something closer to awe. Because, really think about it from their perspective for a second. These massive beings were the children of what many people would have believed to be divine messengers. Their fathers were angels, and beings literally associated with heaven itself. So to many early communities, the Nephilim may have seemed like living proof that the gods had come down to earth. With them being powerful, larger than life, and almost divine in appearance in a way. It's something that early civilizations had never seen before. So at first, humanity tried to live alongside of them. They tried to accommodate them. They tried to coexist. But very quickly, a problem began to emerge. And it was one that no one had anticipated. The Nephilim were not built for the same world humans were. Or maybe the world wasn't built for them. But either way, their bodies were massive. And maintaining those bodies required enormous amounts of food. Far more food than the earth had ever needed to provide before. After all, the earth was designed for mankind, not Nephilim. The Book of Enoch describes their appetite as insatiable. Livestock began disappearing. Harvests that once fed entire villages were consumed almost immediately. And grain stores that had been carefully preserved for the winter time would vanish in a matter of days or even hours. Imagine this for a second. An entire herd of sheep, animals meant to feed a community for a year or at least multiple weeks, being devoured before the day was even halfway over. And that was just one giant for one meal. He would eat the entire herd of sheep and then demand more by lunchtime. Now imagine hundreds of them, because that is the scale that this story suggests. Think about it. If 200 watchers had taken human wives, then logically, even if each of them had only had one child, which if we're being honest, is probably the most conservative possible scenario there is, then that would mean at least 200 Nephilim walking the earth. And that, of course, assumes that there were no additional children. No second births, no siblings, no twins, no triplets, no expanding generations, just one and done for each watcher. That's what that assumes. 200 Nephilim. Now that's probably not the case. There probably was more if we're being real. The actual number could have been and probably was much greater. And every single one of them required enormous amounts of food in order to survive. At first, humanity tried to keep up with the demand. They brought them livestock, they brought them grain, they literally offered whatever crops that they could grow. The thinking behind this may have been extremely simple. If the giants could be kept satisfied, then maybe the peace could be maintained. But the earth, of course, had never been designed to sustain creatures this large. The natural balance of the world had been built around human life, not giants. So eventually, the resources began to run out. Fields were stripped bare. Livestock herds disappeared. Food stores collapsed. And when there was nothing left to give, the Nephilim began to take. According to the Book of Enoch, the giants turned against humanity itself. They began killing humans for food. and cannibalism entered the world in a way that it never had before. Communities that had once tried to coexist with these large, massive beings now found themselves being hunted by them. Entire settlements disappeared, and the relationship between humans and the Nephilim transformed from uneasy coexistence into pure survival.
This union of celestial and mortal bloodlines gave birth to a race of giants, the Nephilim. Another ancient text found in the Dead Sea Scrolls was called the Book of Giants. This book, along with the Book of Enoch, described the Nephilim as creatures of immense size and strength and immense cruelty. The Nephilim brought even more corruption and violence to the world. Torn between divinity and humanity without a home in either, they go insane. Soon they turn on humans and torture anyone they can find. The Nephilim needed to consume so much food that eventually they began feeding on human flesh. Humans are helpless to stop these advances. Many are enslaved by the powerful Nephilim. Many more are killed. Then a few humans decide to follow the example set by the Watchers. They think if angels can torture and kill and enslave and sleep with whoever they want, why can't we? Then the world becomes filled with people like this. Soon God can't tell who's a Nephilim and who isn't.
But the violence did not stop there. The giants also, of course, began turning on one another. The Book of Enoch suggests that their very nature was corrupt from the beginning. They were born of an act of rebellion, a violation of the natural order that separated heaven and earth. They were the result of, the Watchers breaking their sacred vow. So these children were literally abominations. They were never supposed to exist. And because their existence came from corruption, that corruption began to shape their behavior. Rivalries formed between them. Battles broke out. Disputes over territory, what little food remained, and power escalated into brutal confrontations. The same immense strength that made them terrifying to the humans also made them extremely dangerous to each other. Violence multiplied and chaos spread. Human society began to collapse under the pressure, and the Watchers just sat back watching their offspring physically devastating the earth itself. They watched the food disappear. They watched the cities fall. They watched the bloodshed becoming normal. And according to the Book of Enoch, that destruction eventually reached such an extreme level that it was no longer just humanity witnessing the suffering. The text describes something far more symbolic and far more haunting. It says that the earth itself began to cry out. The bloodshed of the innocent had become so great that creation itself was portrayed as calling out to heaven. And the rebellion that began quietly on a mountain with 200 angels making a pact beneath the sky was now spiraling into something far larger than anyone, including the Watchers, could control. Something that would soon demand a response from God himself. Because what the Watchers had unleashed upon the world was no longer something that humanity could survive on its own. So very soon, God was going to act. The rebellion of the Watchers did not end when they descended from Mount Hermon. Taking human wives and producing the Nephilim was only the beginning. Because once the Watchers were living among humanity, they began doing something even more dangerous. They began teaching. Now, at first glance, teaching might not seem like a crime. Knowledge, of course, is often called a gift. Humanity grows by learning, and civilizations advance through discovery, at least as far as we're concerned, right? But the Book of Enoch warns that the danger was not necessarily the knowledge itself. The danger was the timing. Humanity was still young. Civilization was still forming. People were only beginning to understand morality, responsibility, and the delicate balance required to live peacefully with one another. They had not yet learned patience, humility, forgiveness, or restraint. And the Watchers were beings that had once been in the throne room of God. So they watched the world being formed. They fully knew and understood that there was a divine order in which the teaching of knowledge needed to take place. Yet they ignored that. This was forbidden knowledge, not because it was false or untrue, but because humanity was not yet ready to receive it. Without humility, without fear of God, and without love to guide the heart, knowledge becomes a curse. It becomes a weapon or a tool that man could use to dominate, manipulate, and destroy. And humanity, being so unprepared, received it eagerly, without pause, without hesitation, and without question. Some names are remembered more than others for the scale of their corruption. Azazel, whose name is interpreted as, quote, the one removed, or linked to being a scapegoat in some way, became infamous for teaching humans the secrets of metalwork. He showed them how to extract it from the earth, how to shape it, and how to forge it into weapons, swords, shields, even armor. Before this knowledge was introduced, human conflict had been limited by physical strength and simple tools. Disputes were smaller and way more personal. Like a fist fight here or a verbal argument there, so on and so forth. They weren't very violent, and they didn't last long at all. Violence absolutely existed, of course, I think it always has, but it was constrained by the limits of what the human body could do. But once humans learned how to forge weapons made of steel that they extracted from the earth, those limits disappeared altogether. A blade could obviously unalive someone way faster than fists. Armor could protect warriors and allow them to dominate others. Entire groups could now organize themselves into armed forces capable of overpowering weaker communities. Violence was no longer just an emotional reaction, but it became a system of its own. War itself became possible on a scale that had never existed before. And according to the Book of Enoch, this is all thanks to Azazel. Penume, whose name means, quote, the secret one, or the inside, introduced humans to writing. On its own, writing seems innocent, even necessary. It preserves knowledge. It allows ideas to travel beyond memory. Hell, it even allowed the Book of Enoch to be recorded. But in the hands of a naive, untested humanity, it became a vessel for corruption, accelerating the spread of greed, jealousy, and ambition at a pace the human heart could not yet withstand. Kokobayil, I probably just butchered that too, whose name means Star of God, taught humanity about the heavens, like astrology. He taught them about the constellations, the patterns of the stars, so on and so forth. Now, this was knowledge that was meant to inspire awe and reveal divine order. But instead, after Kokobayil twisted it, it became tools for pride and self-perseverance and explanation and exploration. Humans looked to the heavens not to understand the creator, but to try and manipulate their own destiny through zodiac signs and, astrology and all the things that we still see today, mind you. They saw signs to control the future and to elevate themselves above the natural and moral order. Now, the stars should have been a beautiful masterpiece and almost evidence of a creator in a sense, right? But instead, it taught the humans to worship the creation instead of the creator. Another watcher, Gadriel, might have just messed that up as well, introduced the mechanics of war far beyond mere weapons. He taught strategy, deception, and organization. Before this, conflicts were fleeting, impulsive, and very personal. Disputes ended when one side surrendered or retreated. But Gadriel showed humans how to plan ambushes, orchestrate campaigns, and wage long-term battles designed to destroy entire communities. Violence was no longer random. It became deliberate, calculated, and extremely efficient. Fear spread like wildfire. Chaos became almost like law. Amazarak, I know I messed that up, taught human women about garments, adornment, and cosmetics. He taught them how to, mash up minerals and apply them to their eyelids and other facial features to essentially wear as makeup or beauty products, right? And to beautify themselves. At first, this seemed trivial, probably even harmless. But appearance very soon became another tool. Attraction could be engineered, and shortly afterwards, vanity replaced sincerity. Women were no longer valued for their wisdom, spiritual incitement, or moral guidance. They were judged and lusted after for beauty alone. The entire balance of society shifted, and relationships were corrupted at the core. Lust replaced trust, and manipulation disguised as affection became very common. Barakiel, probably again messed that one up, whose name means lightning of God, brought knowledge of meteorology, the study of the clouds, storms, and natural patterns. Humans learned to read omens in the weather, to manipulate fear, and to assert control over others using nature itself. Knowledge intended to reveal creation's order became a tool of domination. Bezaleel, again, I'm going to butcher all these, let me just let you know now, taught humans magic and incantations. The spiritual realm, designed as a sanctuary of guidance, became a playground for greed, power, and intimidation. Humans could now claim authority over one another by invoking unseen forces. They very soon learned that they could, say a word over here and enact change over there, without, of course, them fully understanding the consequences or the responsibilities that came with such knowledge. So you have this, watcher who taught them the knowledge, or quote unquote knowledge of magic and incantations and how to cast spells on one another, right? So then you have the next watcher come in, Armoros, who revealed the secrets of breaking these enchantments and spells. So now they can cast spells on one another, they can break these spells, they're just playing with magic, apparently. Thanks. And what began as curiosity would have very rapidly turned into exploitation. Forces that were meant to guide and protect were, of course, twisted into more instruments of manipulation and harm. Another watcher, Castea, introduced signs, omens, and hidden patterns in nature and spirit. This knowledge, like so many others, was not evil by itself, but without wisdom, it became dangerous. Fear could be wielded as a weapon, and societies were reshaped by deception and intimidation. The innocent were exploited, and I think we can see up until this day they still are. And authority was claimed through secrets and signs that most could not comprehend. Sounds really familiar, doesn't it? I know, just wait. This book is going to mess y'all up, I'm just telling you. It's insane. Now again, all of these gifts in isolation might seem manageable on their own, like metalworking, writing, astronomy, weather patterns, adornment, makeup, cosmetics, so on and so forth. But again, humanity was not ready. The knowledge was theirs to have, but in due time. The quote-unquote gifts arrived too quickly and in overwhelming abundance. The Book of Enoch describes it as a flood of knowledge, crashing over a population that was far too unprepared to handle it. Innocence collapsed. Violence spread. Pride bloomed completely unchecked. And deception took root in every single corner of society. And while humanity struggled under this flood of new information, the Nephilim grew. Their hunger continued expanding, and their violence spread. Their existence amplified the moral and physical chaos. The world itself began to feel the weight of this corruption. Fields could no longer yield food fast enough to sustain these giants and humankind. Communities collapsed under the weight of greed, ambition, and bloodshed. The earth itself began to cry out with the blood of the innocent. And the cries did not go unheard. The moral imbalance, the suffering of humans, the corruption of creation, it all rose like smoke, reaching the throne of God. And in time, the Watchers would face the consequences of their rebellion, because knowledge, when given too soon, without humility, without love, and without fear of God becomes a curse. And humanity, who was ultimately unready, had taken it and unknowingly let it consume the world.
The Watchers taught humans how to cultivate crops and create pottery. They taught humans about medicine and curing illness. The Watchers taught humans about astronomy and astrology. We see this story in ancient cultures all over the world. Advanced beings come down from the sky and bring humanity the gift of civilization. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers helped humanity advance quickly and civilization spread. But the Watchers became vain and proud. They were instructed by God to withhold certain knowledge from man. The Watchers ignored these instructions. The Watchers taught men how to create new metals for weapons. They taught men how to harness fire and wage war. They taught women witchcraft and alchemy. The Watchers revealed the secrets of the heavens and changed the course of human development.
They violated the Prime Directive.
They did. This transfer of knowledge was a double-edged sword. While it propelled humanity forward, it also brought about corruption, a deviation from God's order.
Uh-oh, this isn't going to end well.
By the time the Watchers had finished spreading their forbidden knowledge, and the Nephilim had grown to their full strength and size, the world described in the Book of Enoch had become almost unrecognizable. What had once been a young and developing civilization, or a world still learning patience, humility, and trust, was now something entirely different. The innocence of humanity had been stripped away, and what remained was chaos in both the physical and moral worlds. Violence was no longer rare. It was everywhere. The giants roamed the land with a hunger that could not be satisfied. The earth that had once been able to sustain humanity could no longer recover. And every day brought more destruction. The balance of life, designed to nurture and sustain, had been broken. But the destruction did not come from the Nephilim alone, which even if it did, the Watchers would absolutely still be at fault because they created the Nephilim by not following God's word, right? But on top of the destruction the Nephilim were causing, the knowledge that the Watchers had given to humanity was reshaping human behavior, completely. Weapons were once a distant possibility, but now clanged across battlefields. Fists were no longer the only measure of strength. Swords, axes, shields, armor, all forged by human hands. It multiplied the capacity for bloodshed. Now disputes escalated into battles. Now men could unalive each other in ways that their ancestors had never imagined. Entire communities could be destroyed in a single day. And violence was no longer personal. It became systemic. It became unstoppable. And the corruption spread far beyond the battlefield. Writing allowed humans to record knowledge and secrets for the first time. What had once been spoken and then forgotten could now survive forever. Deception became permanent. Lies could endure through generations. And rewriting history became altogether possible. Greed and jealousy, cunning and ambition, all accelerated far faster than humans had ever been capable of before. Civilization became a network of subtle corruption, teaching each new generation to outwit, manipulate, and dominate better than the previous one did. Astrology turned the heavens into a tool of pride. Where stars had once inspired awe and reverence, humans now sought to control their fate, to find power in predicting events, and to elevate themselves above the moral order. The cosmos, which should have been a symbol of divine creation, were twisted into a ladder of ambition, or a way to manipulate the world without completely understanding it. Oh, there's space, there's other stars, there's other planets, da-da-da-da. NASA. I'm just saying. Fucking NASA. Fucking NASA. Mineral crushing and beauty corrupted relationships. Women, once honored for their intelligence, wisdom, and their spiritual depth, were now chosen for their looks alone. Attraction replaced trust. Vanity replaced virtue. Seduction became a currency. And human value was measured by superficiality rather than by the soul. Nature itself was interpreted as a way to control others. The gifts, which God originally intended to be blessings, became curses. Magic, spells, incantations, hidden omens, they all became instruments of manipulation. And humanity, who was extremely infantile, was completely unprepared and morally immature and just accepted them blindly and wielded them without any restraint or any questioning. Power corrupted at every level. Fear, ambition, lust, cruelty all spread faster than any plague ever could. And still, all while this is happening, the Nephilim just grew and grew. Their hunger intensified. Their violence escalated. They consumed livestock, crops, and people alike. Communities vanished. Families were torn apart. Entire populations disappeared. Bloodshed became so common that it no longer shocked anyone. It was almost like ordinary. Basically woven into daily life. Kind of like what the news tries to do today. Desensitize us, that good old word. The Book of Enoch describes the moment when this suffering reached a point no longer sustainable. The blood of the innocent began to cry from the earth. Not literally, of course, but the symbol is extremely powerful. Creation itself was groaning under the weight of corruption. The ground, once fertile and sustaining, had become soaked in the blood of the innocent. The trees, the rivers, the mountains, all bore witness to humanity's moral collapse.
Enoch delivers the message to the Watchers, to the Nephilim, and to all mankind. Repent for your sin or suffer the wrath of God. Enoch's warning is ignored.
And heaven was watching. It was always watching. The Archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, looked down upon the world, and they saw everything. They saw the Watchers abandoning their place in heaven. They saw forbidden unions with human women. They saw the giants consuming all that had been nurtured. They saw the flood of knowledge that had corrupted humanity's hearts and minds. And they saw the consequences. Violence, greed, lust, and cruelty spreading completely unchecked. The Book of Enoch tells us that the archangels could no longer remain silent. What was happening had crossed a line. Humanity itself was being destroyed. And if God didn't act soon, the very light of the world may be snuffed out. The world that had been designed to sustain life was being crushed beneath rebellion and sin. The cries of the innocent had reached the heavens, and so the archangels brought the matter to God. They reported the rebellion of the Watchers. They described the Nephilim, creatures born of this transgression between these Watchers and human women. They revealed the flood of forbidden knowledge, the tools of manipulation, the instruments of war, and the corruption of human hearts. They painted the picture of a world in collapse, not through divine wrath, but through the misuse of gifts given far too early, without guidance and without restraint. The rebellion that had began quietly on Mount Hermon, with 200 angels swearing an oath beneath the sky, had spiraled into worldwide chaos. Every corner of creation had been touched by this evilness, wickedness, and darkness. And now, according to the Book of Enoch, the time had come for heaven to respond. The cries of the earth had finally reached the throne of God. And God, who is slow to anger, but perfect in justice, would soon make his judgment known. Because the rebellion of the Watchers had absolutely not gone unnoticed. Because humanity had been corrupted beyond repair. And because the world itself had cried out for a reckoning. So a reckoning is what they shall get. The time had finally come for God to act. By this point, the world described in the Book of Enoch had descended into something almost unrecognizable. Violence had covered the earth, and humanity was suffering beneath the weight of corruption, and the rebellion of the Watchers had altered the very structure of life on the planet. But the judgment that was about to come was not sudden. It was not impulsive. According to the Book of Enoch, heaven had been watching this unfold for a long time. God had allowed humanity time to recognize the corruption, time to resist it, and time to change. But the Watchers had interfered with the natural order of human development. They had given humanity knowledge that was never meant to arrive all at once. They had been present when the world was designed. They stood in the throne room of heaven, and they understood the boundaries that had been placed between the spiritual and physical worlds. They knew that some knowledge was meant for angels, and some knowledge was meant for humanity. And they knew that humanity was meant to receive that knowledge slowly, in the proper time. And the Watchers had given humanity the power to forge weapons before humanity had learned forgiveness. They had given humanity tools of domination before humanity had learned mercy. And they had revealed spiritual knowledge before humanity developed the wisdom to carry it responsibly. And the result was exactly what heaven had always known it would be if they received this knowledge too soon. Men would use it to dominate each other. Women would use it to manipulate and build lust rather than trust, built relationships. And leaders used this knowledge to justify cruelty and consolidate power. And not for 1 second did humanity ever stop and ask whether they should use these abilities. They only saw that they could. So they did. And now the world was paying the price. The cries of the innocent had risen from the earth itself, and heaven answered. According to the Book of Enoch, God summoned 4 archangels, or the highest ranking beings in the heavenly order. He summoned Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. Each one of them would be given a role in restoring balance to a world that had been pushed beyond its limits. Each one of them would carry out a part of the judgment. The first task was given to Raphael. Raphael's name means God heals, and healing is exactly what the world needed right now. The world itself had been wounded. Violence had spread through humanity like a disease. War, greed, and domination had become normalized. The corruption that had begun with the Watchers was now embedded in the foundations of human society. Raphael was sent by God to confront the one most closely associated with the corruption, Azazel. Azazel had been the one responsible for teaching humans how to shape metal into weapons. He had revealed the secrets of forging steel, swords, shields, and armor, all tools that transformed human conflict from something temporary into something devastating. So Raphael descended. And when Azazel saw him coming, he tried to escape the judgment that he knew was surely coming with him. But Raphael captured him. The Book of Enoch describes it like this. The chains of heaven came down and bound him. Not like ordinary chains, obviously, but restraints of divine authority. He was cast into a desolate wilderness, a barren place of confinement. There he would remain imprisoned, cut off from the world that he had corrupted. He told him, "You're going to stay there for 70 generations and wait for the final judgment that would come at the end of time." But Azazel was not the only one who would answer for what had happened. The rebellion itself had begun with the Watchers, and their leader was Semyaza. So the next command was given to Michael. Michael's name carries a powerful meaning. It means, "who is like God?" The name itself is not necessarily a question that's seeking an answer. It's a challenge, or a declaration, a reminder that no being, angel or human, can rival the authority of the Creator. Michael's role in this moment reflects that meaning perfectly, because it was Michael who would confront the Watchers themselves, the ones who had abandoned heaven, the ones who had crossed the boundary between angels and humans, and the ones who had sworn their oath on Mount Hermon and unleashed corruption across the earth. Michael descended and pronounced the judgment of God upon them. They had violated the order of creation. They had taken human wives when they weren't even supposed to interfere at all. They were only supposed to watch. They had produced offspring that were never meant to exist, straight up abominations. And they had corrupted humanity with knowledge that it was never meant to receive, at least not in the way that they delivered it. So for these actions, they would be restrained. The Book of Enoch describes the Watchers being bound with unbreakable chains and cast into hidden valleys and deep places within the earth. Places where they could no longer influence humanity. Places where they would remain imprisoned until the day of final judgment. But there was still another problem. Even with the Watchers imprisoned, the Nephilim, of course, still roamed the earth. These creatures of enormous size and power, driven by an insatiable hunger and just like pure violent instincts. Because they are, of course, abominations. And I think maybe they felt that on like some soul level. They didn't fit anywhere. They didn't have a place in the world. They didn't have anywhere to go after death, right? Like they're not human. They're not going to heaven. They're not going to hell. Like they're not meant for this world. And I think they felt that. And that's maybe why their nature was so violent. So for these Nephilim, another archangel was given a task. Gabriel. Gabriel's name means God is my strength. And his role in this moment reflects that strength. Because the Nephilim were not simply captured, because of course they were far too powerful. Instead, God instructed Gabriel to allow their own nature to become their downfall. The giants had always been violent, aggressive, competitive, even dominant. So Gabriel turned that aggression inwards. According to the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim began turning against each other. And all it took was a little nudge and influence from Gabriel. God instructed him to go down and corrupt their minds so that they would turn against one another. He entered their minds, whispering and subtly bending their perception, magnifying their aggression, and fanning the sparks of envy that was already brewing inside of them. And the earth trembled beneath them. The Nephilim turned upon each other. Mountains shook as their massive forms clashed. Every strike reverberated across valleys. Every roar echoed like thunder. Rivers were stained with their blood. Forests were torn down as if the land itself were protesting. The fury that had once made them unstoppable to humans now became their executioner. Titans that terrified the earth were undone by their own unchecked might and anger. And slowly, through brutal confrontations, the giants destroyed themselves. God said that they were born of violence, so let violence be the instrument of their downfall. But even after all of this took place, one final task still remained. Because even after the Watchers were imprisoned, and even after the giants began destroying themselves, the corruption of the world was still too deep. The earth itself had been scarred by what had happened. So God prepared one final act of judgment. And for that task, the Archangel Uriel was sent. Uriel's name means God is my light. He is associated with wisdom, with revelation, and with illumination. Uriel was sent to a man named Noah. I'm sure you all have heard of him. Unlike the rest of the world, Noah had not embraced the corruption spreading across the earth. He was described as righteous, someone who still walked in obedience, even while the world around him collapsed and fell into pure chaos and darkness. So Uriel appeared to Noah with a warning. A great flood was coming. The world had reached a point where it could no longer continue as it was. The corruption unleashed by the Watchers had spread too far. The earth itself would be cleansed. But Noah and his family would be spared. Uriel instructed him to begin building an ark, a massive vessel that would preserve a remnant of humanity. Animals, seeds of life, everything that would be needed to begin again after the waters receded. Without that warning, humanity would have vanished completely. But through Uriel's message, a future was preserved. According to the Book of Enoch, this moment stands as one of the clearest demonstrations of divine justice in the entire narrative.
The earth has become so corrupt and so foul that it needs to be reset. He will cause an event so cataclysmic that everything and everyone will be killed. Humans, angels, Nephilim, all of it, gone. But one man and his family will be spared. The only man who can't be corrupted. The only man who could be trusted to restart civilization. Enoch's great-grandson, Noah. But here's the thing. There's a lot more to Noah than we've been told. In the Book of Enoch, we get the full story. In Genesis, God appears to Noah and says the world is to end. There will be a great flood that washes away every living thing so the world can start again. He commands Noah to build a large boat, an ark. This ark will hold Noah, his family, and 2 of every animal. In the ark, they'll survive the flood and live to see a new age on earth. Everybody knows that story. But in Enoch, it happens a little bit differently. The Book of Enoch describes Noah's birth.
His body was as white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose, and the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. The Book of Noah, Book 3, Chapter 1.
Noah is described as beautiful with bright glowing skin, and from the moment of birth, Noah can speak. Noah's father Lamech panics. Lamech had been away during the time Noah would have been conceived, so he knows the child isn't his. What's worse, Noah is radiating light. Lamech is worried that Noah is a watcher, or worse, Nephilim. Lamech seeks counsel from his father Methuselah. Also fearing the child could be a watcher, Methuselah prays to his own father, Enoch, who's been in heaven for many years. Enoch answers Methuselah.
And now make known to thy son Lamech that he who has been born is in truth his son, and call his name Noah, for he shall be left to you, and he and his sons shall be saved from the destruction which shall come upon the earth on account of all the sin and all the unrighteousness which shall be consummated on the earth in his days. The Book of Noah, Book 3, Chapter 18.
Lamech is relieved that Noah is truly his, but Noah was conceived while Lamech was away. In the Book of Enoch, this is a divine miracle. Lamech also learns that a great flood is coming, and Noah has been chosen to restart civilization. In Genesis, God gives Noah instructions on how to survive, but the Book of Enoch tells it a little differently. The story of Noah and the flood is primarily found in the Book of Genesis, chapters 6 through 9. This narrative is one of the most well-known in the Bible.
So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth.
But the Book of Enoch tells it a little differently. First, it's Uriel who tells Noah about the flood, not God. And the intention of the flood is not to destroy all humans. According to the Book of Enoch, the primary targets of the Great Flood are the fallen angels known as Watchers and their human hybrid offspring, the Nephilim. Most humans will also die, but this is considered necessary collateral damage. It's the only way to reset creation and wipe the slate clean. If some humans survive, great. If they don't, it doesn't matter. Only Noah matters. Noah was given specific instructions on how to build the ark and survive.
Make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark, and make lower, middle, and upper decks.
This is a big ship, longer than a football field, almost 100 feet wide, and taller than a 5-story building. It would need to be big, because Noah had an additional responsibility.
You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive.
At this time in history, there were well over 1 million species of animals on Earth. Obviously, these wouldn't fit on the ark, but there are explanations and interpretations. The biblical interpretation is that Noah wasn't saving every breed of animal, just the type. So he wouldn't have brought any dogs. He would have brought a male and female gray wolf, and the wolves would eventually become dogs.
They should have left the cats.
Stop it.
The vicious little hell beasts they are.
That's enough. What about huge animals like elephants? Those were definitely on the ark. Some biblical scholars say the animals delivered to Noah were infants, allowing a lot more to fit. The time finally arrived. The end of the world. Or the beginning. With Noah, his family, and the animals safely aboard the ark, the flood began.
On that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the floodgates of the heavens were open, and the rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
As the waters raged over the earth, anyone not on the ark drowned. It took 5 months for the water to recede, and another 5 or 6 months for the land to be dry enough to leave the ark. Noah and his family and the animals were on the ark for a full year.
Yet there was another part of this story that the ancient texts leave shrouded in secrecy and silence. As we heard, the Watchers were judged, the giants were destroyed, and the earth itself would soon be cleansed by a flood. But what about the women? You know, the human women who had taken the fallen angels as husbands? Yeah, them, because they are barely mentioned again. And while, yeah, they may have thought oh, these are angelic beings, once you see these Nephilim creatures that essentially you've created and came out of your body after you mated with these angelic heavenly beings, and then you see what these Nephilim are doing to the world and savaging the place and with the cannibalism and the just craziness, right? I think you would have had an inkling that maybe this isn't of God. You know what I mean? Maybe this wasn't the right thing to do. So if you didn't seek forgiveness and try to right your wrongs in any way, I imagine that there would be some type of judgment for them too. I mean, obviously I'm not God, so I can't say for sure, but the Book of Enoch is strangely silent on this part. At least the version that we've gotten here in the West. Here in the West, the Book of Enoch tells us in chilling detail how the Watchers descended from heaven, chose human wives from among the daughters of men, and then made unions with them, if you will, and produced this, abomination known as the Nephilim, or giants who devoured the earth and filled it with bloodshed. But after the judgment is pronounced, the text grows strangely quiet, at least here in the West. No verse in particular describes these women's punishment, and no angel is sent to bind them. Instead, the story moves forward toward the destruction of the giants and the coming flood, leaving behind, in my opinion, a very unsettled question that has echoed for centuries. What became of the women who crossed that boundary between heaven and earth? Some later traditions speculated that in the Ethiopian version of the Book of Enoch, it goes on to tell a completely different story. That these women were cursed, condemned to roam the edges of the sea, lingering in the shadows of creation until the final judgment. Their fate tied forever to the chaos that their children brought into existence.
And Cannibal Cove in Never Neverland, what did the Nephilim do? Their parents were the mermaids, the sirens, that had with the angels, and God turned them into fish and closed their legs so they couldn't have sex anymore, basically, with the fallen angels, and they were turned into sirens. And so in Never Neverland, you've got Mermaid Lagoon, and then you got Cannibal Cove. What were the Nephilim known for? Eating people. This is why, and the Indians, and there's also the Indians in that little island that Peter Pan takes them to, and he goes, how? You know this idea of how? Because if you read the tales of the Native American Indians, they would go like this to show me your fingers. Because if you had 6 fingers, they knew that you were working with the Nephilim that would eat people. That's a whole other thing. We can get into that. But the Native Americans went like this. It wasn't how, it was how many fingers do you have? We named it how. They went like this because they would do this. They would want to see the Spaniards' hands. They would always go like this, show us your hands. Because if you had 6 fingers, they were afraid of you. Because you were genetically deformed, hybridized, working with the cannibal people that would eat people. So the 6-fingered people that are being bad, that's a known thing throughout history. It's literally there were 6-fingered people that would eat people, or they were deformed giants, or they were mixed with animal-human hybrids.
Because it says in the Book of Enoch, or maybe I'm wrong there, it might actually be in the Book of Revelations now that I say it, that it doesn't matter where they hide from me. Even if they try to hide from me on the bottom of the sea, I will send the serpent down to get them. Now, some people infer that this means the government and the D-elite are going to have bases on the bottom of the ocean, which I think we already know that they do, and that's what he's referring to, sending the serpent down to get them. And other people say that he's talking about the sirens and the mermaids, that these human women were then cursed to become. They just have to wait out, the end of their days in the sea until final judgment comes. But just to be clear, the Western version of the Book of Enoch never necessarily confirms these stories. And that silence is perhaps the most haunting part of it all, because it leaves us wondering whether their fate was simply forgotten, or if maybe it was too terrible to record. Because like I said at the beginning of this video, we know that like the Book of Enoch itself was straight up left out of like the Western version of the Bible. Like they just left it out of the Rolodex. Like, that doesn't go with our indoctrination and like our doctrine that we're trying to push here. So we're just going to scratch that. All right, dog? Like we know they did that. So, like, personally, in my own opinion, I don't find it too far-fetched that maybe they would have scratched this, like, judgment of the human women as well. But I don't have any proof of the matter because I don't speak Ethiopian, so I can't guarantee that. Even after the Watchers were judged, even after the giants were brought down low, the world was not yet done with its rebellion. The Nephilim, also known as the offspring of the angels and the human women, had been born outside the order of creation. Their bodies had been destroyed by violence, by their own monstrous strength, or by the cleansing flood that God unleashed. But their souls could not ascend to heaven because they were not of God's pure creation. They were not formed in his image. They also could not descend down to hell, for they were not human. So they were left suspended, cursed, and alone. Once the Nephilim wiped each other out, their souls were left to just kind of wander. The Book of Enoch describes these spirits as restless, bitter, and violent, carrying the instincts of domination, lust, and cruelty as if their flesh had been only a cage for what was inside of them. Every impulse, every violent instinct, and every corrupt lesson they had absorbed in life lingered, and then intensified after they were gone, and in the afterlife. And there, it was left untempered by conscience, and unsoftened by mercy. Where humanity might pause, reflect, and even learn, the Nephilim had only the raw, unfiltered echo of rebellion. God declared that by the violence in which they were born, they shall fall. And still, it was not enough to end their story. Their bodies fell, sure, of course, but their spirits lingered. The Book of Enoch calls them demons, though they were not created as such. They were remnants of a rebellion that began in heaven and ended in destruction here on earth. They are restless, wandering, bitter, and violent. The Book of Enoch says that they could go on to influence humanity, whispering temptations, teaching forbidden desires, and sowing discord. They feed on fear, lust, ambition, and greed. Just picture this. A man walking alone at night, and a shadow brushes past, a whisper in his ear that he can't necessarily place, but he's certain that he heard. That whisper carries the weight of a giant's hunger, the cunningness of a fallen angel, and the seed of sin that we thought was long buried centuries ago. This, my friends, according to the Book of Enoch, is no random evil. This is the lingering echo of the Nephilim, the spirits of beings whose unnatural existence could not be reconciled with the order of the world.
But when a Nephilim dies, he's the son of an angel, of a fallen angel. His spirit cannot go back to Yahweh because it's not from Yahweh.
Exactly.
So what happens with that spirit?
It roams the earth and gets into people.
It stays roaming in the earth, and this is what people in their ignorance, Josh, as we mentioned before, is what they call demons and spirits and familiar spirits.
It all comes from the
It's actually the spirits of the Nephilim.
Absolutely. Yeah, just think about it. If you're not from an angel or completely human, if you're not completely angel, completely human, then that's not God's creation. So,
and that's what demons are. That's what demons and high principalities are. Spirits of the Nephilim.
Family, if you're watching this and think it's too wild, remember this. The Bible is not a safe book. It's supernatural from start to finish.
Yep.
And what's coming is not safe either. We must be grounded in truth and led by the Holy Spirit.
Yes, absolutely. And also for all the pastors watching us, for the church watching us. It's time to wake up, guys. This is not sci-fi. This is the Bible. This is the holy book that you proclaim in your services every Sunday. Okay? So it's time to show the church these things because they're going to need to be prepared in the times ahead. And we can't stress this enough. This is biblical intelligence that we're giving you guys. In the next section, we're going to dive into the Book of Enoch, the spiritual dimension of the Nephilim activity, and what really happened on Mount Hermon.
200 angels descended on Mount Hermon. They weren't sent by God. They rebelled against God. Okay. They made a pact to take human wives. And what was born were the Nephilim giants, half angelic hybrids, beings that corrupted all of creation.
Yep. And here is the next layer. These watchers didn't just corrupt bloodlines. They corrupted knowledge. Enoch says that they taught humans sorcery, astrology, enchantments, warfare, even how to manipulate DNA and metals, guys.
And doesn't that sound familiar, actually? It mirrors what's happening today. AI, transhumanism, CRISPR, gene editing. Modern science is repeating the sins of the Watchers. We're living in a time of rediscovered rebellion.
Check out how this guy explains Nephilim being hybrids, made by falling angels coming together with human beings and having a child. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Super wild. Check this out.
Are Nephilim demons, or are they just half human, half angels?
Nephilim, the actual term, is a term to describe the disembodied spirits of half angelic and half human beings. The term Nephilim itself is translated in the Septuagint as gigos, which is giants. And because they are this unholy mixture, they are part spiritual being, but they're part human. And now their spiritual reality after their body dies, it has nowhere to go. So the spirit is disembodied because it takes after angelic kind of patronage. And in light of that, it's stranded on the earth. These Nephilim become these warrior kings, but they're also savage. They tear apart things. They're cannibals. They drink blood. All of these things are all present, but when they are killed, when they're taken care of, Og of Bashan in the Bible is considered a Nephilim. Nimrod is very likely of a Nephilim descendant. Goliath comes from the clan of the Nephilim. After they die, their spirits are aimless. They're wandering. They're trying to make sense of, and this is why they want to embody. This is why they want to possess.
Right.
They have a feel.
They don't have anywhere to.
And they remember what it was like to be embodied, right? This is also why I think they go chaotic and they go kind of mad, because they're just trapped.
Gives you a whole new perspective on paranormal activity, huh? These things were around during the time of Noah. Heck, these things are around even today. They may not be giants that you can just see around, but there's different things that got Nephilim blood. I did a whole episode on a guy who came from this bloodline. Definitely be aware. Amen. And have discernment, because many things are still around. You just got to open your eyes to see it.
That the first generation Nephilim would only live for 500 years, and that they were to kill each other off in a massive civil war that their parents had to watch. This 500-year civil war that Enoch writes about is what the Greeks later stylized what became known as the Clash of the Titans. When they were killed off in the civil war, their spirits went out and became wandering spirits. They lost their physicality. They're looking for bodies again. In this state, they were and are demonic entities. So what happened next? I believe they started this process of the genetic manipulation that we read about in Joshua 4:18 and Jubilees 7:24. They started to create host bodies for their spirits to go into. And those animal-human chimera may have been similar in characteristics to their fathers.
These spirits were consequences that showed up as in the flesh or spirit form, reminders that divine boundaries, once broken, reverberate far beyond the act itself. This was never about just you came down off Mount Hermon and you interacted with the humans, right? How dare you? No, that corruption can still be felt to this day. They literally altered the future of mankind as a whole. And that, my friends, is why I personally think he banished the fallen, or the Watchers, to sit underneath the earth and wait until the day of judgment, and then they will answer for what they have done, right? Because he says you need to go underneath the earth and wait until the day of judgment, and then you will answer for every soul that you have corrupted, right? Talking to the Watchers. And I was teaching my daughter about this a couple weeks ago in history class, and I was like, I think the reason why he did that, because it would have been easy for him to just be you asshole, you did this, let me judge you now, right? Let me give you your punishment now. But he knew that this knowledge that they taught would not end with the flood. Like, he wanted to try and like wipe it out. Obviously he had to. The world needed a reset. It was already too corrupt, too evil. If it would have continued going the way that it was, like, the light would have been snuffed out entirely. And the world would have just been completely corrupt and like dark and evil. It already damn near was being snuffed out. That's why he had to act. He didn't have a choice. So he had to like reset the earth and like give it a fresh start. But he knew that this knowledge, once unleashed, it's like Pandora's box. You can't never just like close it back up, right? Like, once it's open, it's done. So he knew it was going to continue, and that even us in our generation were going to be manipulated by it. Again, this is all my opinion. Obviously, like, I don't know for sure, but my opinion, based on like, answers I've gotten during prayer and just like research I've done. It seems like he knew that this knowledge, quote unquote knowledge, and like corruption was going to continue. And that, this act that the Watchers did by teaching us all this like stuff way before we were ready for it, and by like unleashing the Nephilim, and now we have these demons that corrupt our ears and all this stuff. He knew that it wasn't just going to be like the generations that were alive at the time of the flood who were going to be influenced by it and like were going to be affected by it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew it was going to be an ongoing issue. So he couldn't just judge them for the souls that they had corrupted back then at like Noah's time, like around like the time of the flood, when he knew that they were going to continuously be corrupting souls all the way up until like present time. So he's like, go beneath the earth, sit and wait out of reach of humanity. So you cannot touch them. You cannot affect them. You cannot influence them anymore. And then on the day of judgment, I will rise you, like, you'll come out from underneath the earth, and you'll answer for every single soul you have corrupted, like from then until now, because he knew it was going to continue. And he couldn't have him answer for it, like, all that time ago, because then he wouldn't have been answering for every soul that he corrupted. Crazy. Really, really powerful stuff when you like break it down and think about it. I had to point that out. Humanity's daily struggles with sin, temptation, and corruption, like being felt all the way until this day, can trace back to these like, shadowy wandering remnants of the Nephilim. They are ghosts of rebellion, unheeded warnings carried forward across time. And yet, even here, in the chaos of wandering spirits, there is order. God allows these entities to exist, not to abandon humanity, but to maintain the balance of justice and free will. Essentially, they test humans. Will we succumb to corruption, just like the Watchers did? Will we pursue domination and lust? Or will we resist, restore order, and align ourselves with the divine? Because essentially, every, influence, for, good or bad, that was around back then, during the time that Enoch wrote this book, is still around today. I mean, the Watchers obviously are bound beneath the earth, so that's the only thing that we don't have, but, the Nephilim are still here in spirit. The knowledge that the Watchers taught us is still here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, he wanted to test us, I think, in my opinion. He wanted to test us. Will you do the same thing that they did? Will you, fall away from me when you're born as a newborn baby and your memory is wiped clean and you know nothing? All memory and knowledge of, heaven and the place that you came from has been taken from you. Can you grow up in this corrupt-ass world and find your way back to me? Or not? You know what I mean? Will you turn away from me? Just like the angels did. Because they were angels. They were sent down here with a specific duty, and they disobeyed. So I think, in my opinion, maybe that's the point of life. And that's why you hear that saying all the time, if it's really yours, set it free. And if it comes back, it was yours. And if it wasn't, it never was, or whatever. Obviously, I'm not saying that right, but you know what I'm saying? I think he's testing us. If the angels will turn on me, and if they can corrupt the entire fucking world and get the entire world to turn on me, besides Noah's lineage, and they've been doing this since the beginning of fucking time, will you? The Book of Enoch paints these Nephilim spirits very vividly. Not as a distant myth, but as a tangible presence in a world that feels alive and violent, with their influence pressing down like the weight of the sky. Their restless energy can be felt until this day. Whispers of temptation can still be heard, and fear can still be spread through these Nephilim, demons or spirits that we have around today. Even after the flood, even after centuries, their presence remains in the moral and spiritual struggle of humanity. These spirits, the remnants of the Nephilim, are the ultimate product of an unnatural birth. They have no home, no order, and no divine guidance. They are reminders that actions have consequences far beyond the moment, far beyond the life, and far beyond what humans could ever really imagine. And if you could see them as the Book of Enoch describes, you would understand the weight of rebellion. The mountains shaking beneath the Titans, the rivers running red, the screams of giants echoing against the heavens, their spirits twisting into shadows that haunt the earth until this day. You would feel it all the way down into your bones, like the endless unrest, the corruption of power without restraint, and the lingering imprint of a rebellion that began among angels, but ended in chaos among all of creation. Enoch's role in this story was far from over. According to the Book of Enoch, he was chosen not merely as an observer, but as a witness to truths that no mortal had ever been witness to see. One day, angels were sent to guide him beyond the world of men. They lifted him away from the chaos below, carrying him through realms unseen by human eyes.
One evening, there's a strange sound above Enoch's village. It's not thunder or wind. It's a sound that seems to make the air and earth vibrate. It's a sound that can be felt. The villagers cautiously come out of their homes and see a bright orb of light hovering just above the trees. Slowly, the sphere of light descends upon the village. The townspeople are terrified, but Enoch hears a voice tell him to not be afraid. Enoch then ascends to heaven, escorted by a celestial being named Uriel. Something similar happens to the prophet Elijah in 2 Kings. Elijah is physically taken to heaven in what he calls a chariot of fire. In Abrahamic religions, souls of the righteous go to heaven after death. Maybe Jesus takes them by the hand, maybe they follow a loved one through the light, or maybe they just arrive there. This is not what happens to Enoch. Like Elijah, Enoch is physically taken to heaven and writes down everything he sees. He doesn't write this from memory. He's literally walking around with Uriel writing things down. He was instructed to do so by God.
Enoch did not record what he saw in the heavens casually. He was given a charge, a divine responsibility that carried the weight of future generations. According to the Book of Enoch, the angel Uriel instructed him to write every detail exactly as it was revealed to him, not as speculation, not as metaphor, and absolutely not as poetry, or his own interpretation, but as the literal design of creation itself. The blueprint God had set in motion from the very beginning. Uriel said, "This is how the world was meant to move. Write it down, Enoch, so that when humanity strays from my order, your words will guide them back. Every gate, every cycle, every ray of light. Nothing must be lost." Enoch lifted his eyes to the heavens, and the sky was alive with motion. Enoch saw the earth as a flat disk, resting upon pillars, with mountains forming its boundaries. Above it was a firmament, a solid expanse holding back the waters above. The sun, moon, and stars moved within this firmament through their appointed windows and gates, rising and setting according to the design that God had established. The ends of the earth were bound by mountains and seas, the horizon itself forming the edges of the world as it was revealed to him. The heavens were structured like a dome over the earth. Enoch saw mountains and waters forming boundaries, rivers and winds following paths laid by God. Enoch was shown vast regions where the natural forces of the earth were stored, controlled, and governed. Enormous chambers held the winds, waiting to be released at the proper time. Immense storehouses contained snow and rain, held in balance until the earth needed them. Thunder, lightning, storms, and clouds moved according to precise mechanisms, as if the universe were a living machine. Every part interconnected. Every motion purposeful. Enoch saw the sun rise not just as a disk in the sky, but as a great luminary whose radiance was like a fire filling the heavens. He watched as it ascended in a chariot pulled by the wind, obviously a metaphor for the divine force that's guiding it. And it was set in pattern determined by 12 heavenly gates. 6 gates in the east, where it rose, and 6 gates in the west, where it set. Through these gates, the sun moved in an exact circuit. Each gate had a purpose, as the sun passed through a gate for 30 days. In one gate, the rays lengthened the days, which therefore softened the soil for planting. In another, the sun's light signaled harvest and rest. Rivers swelled, winds adjusted, and life itself followed the rhythm dedicated by these gates. The moon mirrored this dance, moving through the same exact gates, waxing and waning in precise steps. Its phases were not random flickers of light, but a second clock, reinforcing the sun's cycle and making months, tides, and nights of reflection. Together, the sun and moon orchestrated a perfect duet, a cosmic rhythm that structured the year, the seasons, and life itself. The stars were not ornaments scattered across the night. They were obedient servants of God, each in its assigned course, forming constellations that guided winds, signaled rains, and marked times for planting and harvest. They moved in perfect harmony, playing their role in the law of the cosmos, turning in the sky like dancers in an endless procession, a silent symphony of obedience. Enoch saw the system as a whole, gates opening and closing, the sun and moon moving as one, locked in step with each other, with the utmost precision. The heavens were not chaotic. They were a living blueprint, a calendar, and a clock. It was the pulse of creation made visible, a system that no human invention could ever replicate. Uriel explained it plainly. Everything moves according to the design. The gates, the lights, the cycles. They are the framework of life itself. If humanity forgets this order, the months will shift, seasons will deceive, and the balance of Earth itself will falter. That is why you must write it down, exactly as you see it, so that even in times of corruption, the truth can be remembered. Enoch recorded every detail. He traced the sun's path through the 12 gates, the moon's mirror journey, the waxing and the waning, and the stars' obedient orbits. He described how the east gates unlocked the first light, bringing spring and planting, how the west gates released evening and rest, and how every movement of the heavens affected life below. Through this pattern, time was measured. Seasons were kept in perfect order, and the heartbeat of creation itself became visible. At the center of this order was the tree of life, which had been set upon the earth, its roots touching the foundations, and its branches reaching towards the firmament. It radiated the balance of all creation, anchoring the cycles of the sun, moon, and the stars. Enoch's visions also carried him to the edge of the world, where he saw colossal trees, taller than any mountain in our world today, their branches stretching toward heaven, and their roots entwined with the very earth itself. These were no ordinary trees. They were part of the original design, a channel of life and divine energy. But according to connections and interpretations made by researchers and theorists alike, the Archangels may have revealed a grim future for these massively giant ancient trees. According to theories, angels told Enoch that these ginormous trees that practically reached into the heavens had to be chopped down, and that angels would come down right before the flood began to chop down these massive trees. I'm sure you're wondering, why did they have to chop down these massive trees? Well, that of course had to be done because these giants, or the Nephilim, who were born of human women and the Watchers, had grown strong, towering, and extremely cunning. Their reach threatened to defy the limits that God had set. They could technically climb these giant trees, and they could use those trees to access what was forbidden, like maybe heaven or higher ground, and they possibly could have used these giant trees to survive the coming flood. So the Book of Enoch says that angels came down with saws of divine fire. They cut the trees down. The branches fell like blazing comets. The roots tore from the earth with a thunderous crack. And the giants howled because they knew now that they were ultimately powerless and had no way to survive this upcoming flood. The tree of life itself, once a conduit of creation's harmony, became a barrier or a tool to prevent the giants from escaping their judgment. Enoch watched as the world was reshaped, the balance restored, and the path of divine justice laid bare. Every strike of the angels' saw was precise. Not out of cruelty, but necessity. Order had to triumph over chaos, even when it meant cutting down the mightiest of creations. So if you ever look around the world and you see like these giant, what look like tree stumps where they're like flat on the top, some people even say that some of these mountain ranges are actually made up of wood and they're actually like giant tree trunks, right? I'm sure you guys have heard that conspiracy going viral. Well, the Book of Enoch also explains that aspect too, saying that, yeah, they were giant trees, but we had to cut them down so the Nephilim couldn't survive the flood.
The Book of Enoch tells us exactly what happened to the giant trees that were cut down. It mentions how the angels of God labored or cut down the trees in order to prevent the Nephilim giants from climbing up to survive the flood. We've been born with sight, but our eyes have become blind. They told you this is just pareidolia, that your mind is playing tricks on you. Well, your eyes have become traitors over time. So you do enough research and you come to realize that the majority of science is in fact pseudoscience to fit a narrative. We should know by now that many plateaus and mountains aren't rock formations, but the stumps of these giant trees that were cut down. And if you look closely at a lot of them, you'll see tree rings. Put the tree ring under a microscope and you will see geometric patterns of a hexagon. Take plant stems and you'll also see that each individual fiber is hexagonal in shape. This is what allows the trees to grow upwards into big beautiful trees that reach the sky. Now what's funny is scientists, or the dark Kabbalah priests, tell us that this was made from lava. Since when does lava or magma cool down and make geometric shapes? Let's take a look at Devil's Tower. Again, they tell us that this was formed by igneous lava. Here we see climbers on individual hexagonal towers. The stems of Devil's Tower bend into the base of the ground just like a tree. We see examples of these cut down trees all throughout the world, and Enoch says that there were 200 of them. Now there's always connections within the Bible that point to the Book of Enoch so we can get more details. Just like in Genesis, it tells us that there were giants in the earth in those days. There's other verses that tell us all about these trees. Daniel chapter 4 verse 10, pay attention. I saw a large tree in the middle of the earth. The tree grew very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. I saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from heaven, and he shouted, "Cut down the tree and lop off its branches, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, so that everyone may know that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world." So even the Bible tells us not only who cut these tree stumps down, but why they were left there, to show the power and destruction of God and his angels. Now mud fossils. Are these really petrified giants? Well, in Enoch 16:1 it says, "As to the death of the giants, wherever their spirits depart from their bodies, let their flesh, which is perishable, be without judgment." So judgment of the flesh is to rot and go away, to decompose. But without judgment is to not decompose. So we have to think about, how could these giants be petrified? Well, what plays a major role in petrification? Water. And what happened after the trees were cut down? The Great Flood, a legend across every culture in the world. There's a reason that Enoch, along with many other books, have been removed from the modern Bible. These books painted a far too accurate description of not only our realm and where we live, but the history behind it. You can keep believing that this is all just coincidence, keep believing that you're on a spinning water marble heading nowhere, and evolution is real, that you're a cosmic accident, or you can do a little bit of research, find the truth, and find out that there is a creator who made this amazing realm, and that you were created for a purpose.
Crazy. It's fucking crazy. Enoch recorded that the year, as revealed to him, was a 364-day cycle. made up of 12 months spanning 30 days, plus the extra days to complete the cycle. And this calendar was of course designed to keep track of festivals, harvests, and of course to keep seasons in perfect balance.
Was the Book of Enoch banned because it has the true calendar inside of it? Listen, Enoch is in heaven with the angel Uriel, quite literally the keeper of time, right? And Uriel is like, look, Enoch, behold the luminaries of the heavens that rise and set according to their appointed time. This is not just mythology. This is cosmic scheduling at its finest. Angels are running this shit. And Uriel is like, look at those 6 gates on the horizon. That's where the sun rises and sets to mark the new seasons, summer, winter, spring, and fall. Basically, it was a divine version of the weather app before it started lying every day. Anyways, each season had 91 days for a perfect 364-day year. There was no missing time, no leap years, no February 28-day nonsense, just cosmic rhythm. Meanwhile, we're still over here arguing about daylight savings time. Like, what the fuck even is that? Then Enoch sees the moon and realizes that it's the drama of the heavens because unlike the sun, it keeps changing sizes. Every day, it loses 1/14 of its light. And Uriel is like, hey, pay attention because when men start following the moon instead of the sun, that's when they're going to lose their way in time. Yes, humanity did switch from a solar to a lunar calendar at one point, and we've been confused ever since.
This knowledge was not abstract. It was practical. Farmers, shepherds, kings, and priests could align life with creation if they remembered the celestial rhythm. But, just as Uriel warned, when men stray from this order, chaos follows. Years will slip. Seasons will blur, and life itself will stumble. Yet Enoch saw hope, and as we know, this knowledge was preserved. In Ethiopia, of course, where the Book of Enoch would survive for a millennia. A solar calendar of perfect symmetry. And it's a pattern that keeps the weeks, seasons, harvests, and celebrations in exact harmony without confusion. So why was this so important? Well, Uriel explained that the movements of the luminaries were not just astronomical curiosities, but rather laws of creation. They governed the seasons, the rains, the growth of crops, and the rhythm of life on Earth. Essentially, they were a blueprint, a cosmic clock wound by God himself, showing humanity how time was meant to unfold. And there was also a warning wrapped into this revelation. The celestial order could be misunderstood or even lost if its principles were not weighed and preserved accurately, or if they were purposefully changed. I'm just saying. Enoch was told that when humanity strayed from this order, confusion would come. And boy, oh boy, was he right. I'm just saying. God is always right, isn't he? Years would seem short, seasons would shift, and the timing of life would lose its harmony. Coming with it, of course, a loss of divine rhythm that carried real consequences for the earth and its people.
So Enoch is probably not in the Bible because it talks about angels coming down from heaven and then having babies with human women. Or it's not in the Bible because the predictions that it makes are extremely accurate and Enoch didn't have a telescope or anything like that. Listen, while he's in heaven, the angel Uriel is instructed to show him the sun, the moon, and the stars and how all that work, right? He's shown the sun and how it goes in and out of its portal at its appointed times. He's shown the moon and all the cycles of the moon, and he writes it down in the heavenly luminaries. I believe it's chapter 72 through 82. Let's focus on chapter 80, because then Uriel shows him what will happen to the sun, the moon, and the stars when humans fall out of spiritual grace, if you will. Uriel says, in the days of the sinners, which means that's when humanity is flipped up and fucked up, the years shall be shorter. Bitch, since 2020, we have been moving at a faster rate, so our days are shorter. That's breaking in a billion-year trend of us moving slower, so our years were longer. That's insane. He clocked our shit way back when without a telescope. And then he goes on to say that everything will slow down. Crops, rain, everything on earth will start to move slower, or it will reverse. He says, in those times, the fruits of the earth shall be backward and they shall not grow in their time. And here's the gag. Scientists don't know why the earth is moving faster. Again, it breaks a billion-year trend of us moving slower. All of a sudden, it just sped up in 2020. Have you noticed that since 2020, shit just feels off? I'll wait.
Hey folks, so I try to walk you through and encourage you to read the Book of Enoch, seeing that the Holy Spirit said that Jeremiah prophesied, Isaiah prophesied, the apostles prophesied. Same Holy Spirit says Enoch prophesied. And Enoch is the ancestor of Jesus. And look what he says. It says, in the days of the sinners, the last days, the years shall be shortened. So you know how time is just flying by. But look what he also says. Enoch also says, the moon shall alter her order, and many chiefs of the stars, so celestial things in space, shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. So we're talking about things in space affecting the other moons and stars in our solar system that they don't appear that they're supposed to. What does that sound like? It sounds like the chief of the star that has transgressed the order prescribed to the moon so that they don't appear as they're supposed to during the seasons. So what Enoch prophesied about is this very thing we see right now. So start reading the Book of Enoch.
So now we learn from the Bible why your map is upside down. Hello out there. In this video, I will be showing you that the east and west that we know of today is different from the east and west in the Bible. Now, this is the first incident in the Book of Enoch where I almost gave up on trying to figure it out. I actually put this down because I could not understand it, but the Most High has encouraged me to pick it back up, and He gave me the understanding by opening up a candle of understanding in my heart. And I will be sharing this with you, and it's coming from the Book of Enoch. It says, and at the ends of the earth, I saw 12 portals open to all the quarters of the heavens. These are the four right here. 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter, 4 quarter. These are the 4 quarters of the earth. All right. And it said 3 of them are open on the face, which is the east. All right. This is the face. This is let's say if this is a head, this is the dome, and it's looking at you. So this is the face. So, and this is the back of the head. And this is the ear on this side. This is the ear on that side. Let's just use that as an example. So we have the east. This is the face. All right. It says 3 of them are open on the face. That's the east of the heavens. And 3 are in the west. All right. 3 in the west. And 3 on the right, which is the south. See, we have 3 on the right. All right. Of heaven. And 3 on the left, which is the north. That's the left. That's the north. Now already, when we look at this map, or this chart, we see something strange going on here. So if we turn it like this, and we have the east on this side, which we normally look at, and we have the west on this side, notice that the south is up and the north is down. Therefore, the east and the west is correct on here, but the north and the south is incorrect according to the way we think. But this is the Bible. So even if we turn it this way and put the north at the top, like we're normally used to seeing it, and the south at the bottom, we have the west on the east side and we have the east on the west side. So where are we going with this? Well, remember all of those videos online when they show the eclipse coming from the west? We see it coming from this way, or same thing here this way. It is actually coming from the east because the map has the north at the top and the south at the bottom. And this is biblical. So the eclipse is actually coming from the east, and we think that it is coming from the west, but it is actually coming from the east. So it is coming from this way, which is the east, and it's going this way. And as you can see, America's right here. So we see this eclipse coming from this way, and it's coming from east to west. I'm going to leave that at that. God bless you. Have a great night or day. And now we learn from the Bible why this river flows from the bottom up. Hello out there. In my last video, I showed that Enoch was taken to the ends of the earth, and he saw the directions of the compass with the east as the face, and he said the south was on the right, and he said the north was on the left, and that puts the west in the back of the head. Now, I turned the map this way, and I seen a comment in the comment section asking me why did I turn the map this way, and it is because north has to be at the top because the Most High is in the north, and this Africa, right here, the Nile River flows this way. But when you turn the map the way we see it today, we have the Nile River flowing up, which makes no sense. Now, when you turn it this way, you realize why this is happening. It is because this landmass is higher than this landmass right here. That's why I turned the map this way.
We see the Schumann resonance going off the charts and all of the phenomena, like the Enoch, chapter 80 of Enoch, verse 3. He says, in that day, all things on the earth will alter and will be out of their time. You could not describe the Mandela effect any more perfectly than Enoch did. Enoch 80, verse 3. And it's really interesting because he goes on to say, and the fruits of the earth will be backwards. So if you look at bananas,
yes,
they grow up now instead of down. Everybody remembers the bunch of bananas growing down, but now they grow up. So Enoch called it. He also talked about in that same place where the moon will be out of its order. Well, now
it is. It's so far north now. Like all of us are freaking out. Like it's like
if you go to NASA's website or anywhere and you look at the phases of the moon, when it's at a crescent, it's always either on the west or the east side, from north to south. Okay, but now the crescent is on the bottom.
It's on the bottom,
like the Muslim flag,
right?
So that's a sign in the sky for sure. But my point is, Enoch described it.
Yes.
But it says not to make graven images of anything in heaven. That's one of the commandments, not making these graven images of things in heaven. Well, he called the firmament heaven. He put the planets up there. We call them planets. They're not really planets. They're the chiefs of the stars. And when you read like the Book of Enoch, it has a prophecy about them. It says they're going to leave their orbital paths and tasks. Everything was prescribed a path at creation that showed us the appointed times and when things were happening. That's how they knew when the Messiah was coming. They've always had people studying the stars. But it says the chiefs of the stars, the ones that we call planets, will leave their orbital paths, and a generation to come, a generation of sinners, will err in their understanding about them and take them to be gods. And every single one of them is named after a god, except for Earth. And what was Earth? Dry land. God called dry land Earth. Not the seas, not the world. There's the world, which is everything, the firmament, the whole world, the waters. But Earth is just dry land. And so it's a prophecy that would have helped. If people would have kept that book, they'd have understood it. That was going to come. But that book was hidden for years and years and years. And it says at the very beginning, this book is for a generation to come in the end times. So it's like one of those that when you read it, everything makes sense. Why we've been lied to, who's been lying to us, and
why?
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the most important question to answer is why. And it's that spiritual aspect of it.
Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Therefore let no man glory in men.
another declassified CIA document. They're checking out the firmament in this one, 1953 now. In the investigations, 2 instruments designed by V.G. Fezenkov were used. One of these was a visual photometer of the daytime sky intended for measuring the brightness of the firmament, and derived, get this now, on the assumption of a flat Earth. So the Russians are trying to check out the firmament based on assumptions of a flat Earth in 1957?
Smitey Saxon 33. 4. Lost by upon carrying 4 missile. Its yield was 1.4 megatons.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
This duty that God gave Enoch to record all of the ins and outs of how the world works and how the astronomical clock and all that works was not just a detail in passing or just a fleeting thing that he asked him to do. It was the very preservation of cosmic truth. Enoch was told to pass this down to his descendants so that no generation could ever plead ignorance of how creation was originally designed to function. Every gate, every cycle, and every pattern of light and darkness was meant to be understood, not as ancient trivia, but as the framework of life itself. So Enoch did as he was asked, and he recorded everything exactly as the Lord and Uriel, showed him and told him to. Enoch's vision of the heavenly calendar reinforced a theme seen throughout his revelations. Even when the world below collapses into chaos, rebellion, and corruption, the cosmos above remain true to divine order. There is design, there is purpose, and there is law. And since Enoch wrote it down exactly as he was shown, that truth was preserved for all who would one day seek it. Now that Enoch understood, the layout and design of the world and the universe as, God intended and, originally designed it to be, the angel Uriel, who was guiding Enoch through this, vision of heaven and, of the world, took him even further. They brought him to a place both awe-inspiring and terrifying. A region shrouded in darkness, cut off from the rest of creation. This was a prison, a holding for those who defied God. Here, Enoch saw the fallen watchers, the very angels who had descended from Mount Hermon, swore their oath, taken human wives, and corrupted humanity with forbidden knowledge, were now restrained, bound in unbreakable chains, and cast into deep valleys and pits of darkness. There they waited for the final judgment that would not come until the end of time. Enoch describes their power as being stripped away. Those who had once believed themselves capable of reshaping the world, who had also defied the Most High, were now utterly powerless. And their very pride that led them into their rebellion had become their chains. The knowledge that they had imparted, the chaos that they had unleashed, and none of it could save them from the authority of heaven. Even the sight of their imprisonment could not prepare Enoch for what came next. The angels again guided him farther, carrying him toward a place beyond imagination, the throne of God. The scene was overwhelming. Light blazed with intensity beyond the sun. Flames danced around the throne, yet they did not consume it. The ground beneath seemed molten, yet crystalline, radiating heat and brilliance all at once. The very air vibrated with power, resonating with a presence that was both terrifying and holy. Enoch could feel the angels themselves trembling in reverence. Even beings of immense strength and knowledge bowed to the majesty that filled the throne room. At the center stood the throne of the Most High. It was not simply a seat or just like a place. It was the source of authority, justice, and law. From this very throne flowed the order that governed the entire cosmos. Enoch realized that everything he had witnessed on earth, the rebellion of the Watchers, the destruction of the Nephilim, and like the wandering of their spirits, was being observed, measured, and addressed from this very spot. For the first time, the chaos of the earth was seen in perspective, at least, for Enoch. And the corruption that had once seemed unstoppable, at least from like the human viewpoint, was only one layer of a much larger plan. The divine order had not faltered. Judgment had just begun. Quietly, but begun. The Watchers were bound. The giants had destroyed themselves, and the spirits of the Nephilim now roamed the world. But even they, in due time, were part of a balance that would eventually test humanity. And Noah, being the righteous man that he was being prepared to carry a remnant of life through the coming flood. Enoch's journey through heaven revealed a profound truth: that what humans perceive as chaos is often only a fragment of a much larger order. From the vantage point of the throne, every action, every consequence, and every choice, even the rebellion of the angels, was part of a deliberate unfolding. To Enoch, the vision was both humbling and terrifying. The corruption of the world, the suffering of humanity, and the devastation of the giants. And it had all been met with perfect justice, flowing from the heart of the very Creator himself. From the earth, the story appeared uncontrolled, wild, and even devastating, I'm sure, for like a very long time. Probably a lot like it does now, right? But from heaven, Enoch now understood that everything was exactly as it was meant to be. God sees all, and in due time, his justice will prevail, just like it always has. To Enoch, the universe was not a place of randomness. It was a grand, deliberate design. Creation itself moved according to the law established by God, a rhythm of order and authority that stretched across the stars and all the way down to the smallest grain of sand. Thanks to Enoch and his descendants, the blueprint of creation has survived throughout history, and the physical manifestation of it has been above our heads this entire time, waiting for the generation bold enough to look up and truly see it. After seeing the prisons of the fallen angels and standing in awe before the radiant throne of God, Enoch still was not done. His journey carried him even farther, beyond the present, beyond the chaos of the earth, and into a vision of what was yet to come. Up until this point, everything that Enoch had witnessed had been a reflection of the world as it was. The rebellion of the Watchers, the corruption of humanity, the devastation of the Nephilim, and the divine response that brought order through judgment. But now, the angels guiding him showed him something different, something that stretched far beyond the events of his own time. This was a vision of the future. The Book of Enoch calls it the vision of the Son of Man. It is a revelation of a figure unlike Enoch or any other human had ever seen. And the moment that Enoch lays eyes on him, the air itself seems to pulse with power and authority. Enoch drops to his knees and begins weeping as the Son of Man appears in human form. Yet there is an undeniable otherworldly quality about him. His presence radiates a light that is not merely physical, but rather a manifestation of divine authority in physical form. He stands not just before God, but within the very aura of the throne, and being appointed to act as God's instrument of judgment and restoration. Around him, the angels move with reverence. Their wings shimmer in his light, and their voices are quieted in awe. The Son of Man is both majestic and approachable, a figure whose authority demands recognition, but whose purpose is perfectly just. The angels explain to Enoch that this figure was chosen long before the fall of the Watchers, or the corruption of the earth, before the giants walked the land, and long before humanity faced the flood. He was appointed from the beginning to be the one through whom ultimate justice would be enacted, the one who would restore the balance of creation. Enoch sees the role of the Son of Man unfold in visions that span the earth and the heavens. The wicked, those who had corrupted humanity through exploited knowledge or violence and destruction, are laid bare. Every secret act, every misuse of power, and every unrepented sin is exposed in the light that surrounds him. But the vision does not end there. The Son of Man also brings restoration. With the weight of authority and the clarity of truth, he establishes a new order, a world made right again. Righteousness replaces corruption, justice replaces oppression, and truth replaces deception. In Enoch's visions, kings, rulers, and the powerful cannot hide behind their status, wealth, or influence. Every action is measured, and every choice is revealed. The Son of Man becomes the axis around which justice, restoration, and divine order rotate. What strikes Enoch most profoundly is the timing. He realizes that all of the suffering, all of the rebellion, and all of the chaos that he has witnessed are merely temporary, just chapters in a story that always had a greater arc. The flood, the punishment of the Watchers, the fall of the Nephilim, and all the way up to everything that we're experiencing today. These are not the final words of creation. They are part of a process, a preparation for something larger. And at the center of that future stands the figure of the Son of Man, a beacon of divine justice, wisdom, and restoration. For Enoch, this vision is both terrifying and completely awe-inspiring. It is terrifying because the power of judgment is absolute, and nothing in human or angelic history can escape it. It's coming for each and every one of us. So that's the aspect that was slightly terrifying to him. He also saw it as awe-inspiring because even the darkest chapters, the rebellion of heaven, the corruption of humanity, and the devastation of the giants, and the Illuminati and everything dark that we see today, exists within the framework of a universe where justice and restoration are inevitable. It's gonna happen, no matter what happens. You can't change it. It's happening. It's coming. You either get with it or get lost, basically. From the vantage point of heaven, Enoch sees clearly that the chaos of the world is never random and never purposeless. Every act of sin, every moment of violence, and every lapse of humanity is observed, measured, and folded into the larger decision. And in that moment, Enoch understands something profound. The story of the world is not defined by destruction or despair. It is defined by the restoration that follows. It ain't about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up again. The Son of Man is the promise of that restoration. He's the guarantee that order will return, that justice will prevail, and that creation, no matter how corrupt or broken, will one day be made right again. And for Enoch, witnessing this vision is like seeing the heartbeat of God itself. Steady, deliberate, and unyielding, guiding the world toward the ultimate balance of justice and grace. By this point in Enoch's journey, the revelations he had received were no longer just about the past or the present. Now, he was being shown something far larger. The story of humanity itself. From its beginnings to the cycles that would shape its future. According to the Book of Enoch, these revelations came to him through a series of dreams and visions. But the visions were symbolic. Instead of like people, cities, or nations, Enoch saw animals that represented different groups of humans. This is what scholars often refer to as the animal apocalypse. At first, that might seem like very strange. Why animals? Like what? But in this vision, every creature is a reflection of human character, morality, and behavior. The symbolism was meant to show patterns in humanity, not just individuals. The earliest generations of humans appeared as sheep and cattle. Like gentle and obedient, living together in harmony and guided by the natural order. The first seeds of corruption emerged as wolves and lions, like predatory and violent, representing humans who turned ambition and strength into cruelty. Deceptive leaders appeared as foxes or snakes, like sly and cunning, manipulating others for power or personal gain. Some groups acted like swine or scavengers, like greedy and gluttonous, consuming resources recklessly without thought for their neighbors. Through these symbolic creatures, Enoch witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. He saw the cycles of obedience and rebellion play out in real time. He saw peaceful herds corrupted by predatory beasts, shepherds overpowered by cunning foxes, and communities torn apart by wolves and lions. The visions were relentless. It moved from age to age, the birth of cities, the rise of kings, the wars between people, the slow corruption of justice, and the spread of violence across the land. At times, the scenes mirrored what Enoch had already witnessed with the Watchers and the Nephilim. Like the chaos, the greed, and the abuse of knowledge. But now, he saw how humanity continued this cycle long after those events had ended. And it wasn't just about evil triumphing over good. In the visions, Enoch also saw moments when God intervened. Leaders guided by righteousness, communities being restored, justice returning, and order reasserting itself. The sheep would survive the wolves. The wise foxes would be exposed, and the predatory beasts would eventually fall, just like they always do.
Enoch is having a dream, not Dr. Martin Luther King style, no, an actual dream. And he's telling Methuselah, his son, about these dreams. You see, the dreams are a little weird because it's not humans in the dreams, it's animals, but the animals represent a human or a group or a nation, okay? And it's all of human history, all the way up to the end times. Enoch tells his son that Adam appeared to him in his dream as a white bull. This is supposed to symbolize that humanity began as pure, and then wild beasts came in as the oppressors, and sin entered the picture, and this is the fall of humanity. Right? And then he gets into the Watchers and how they came down from heaven, taught humans these bad things. But again, they're all animals, okay? Like the sheep represent God's people. Angels represent something else, okay? It's all animals in this dream. No one is a human except for Noah, because Noah is an animal at first. But then when he is tasked to build the ark, he turns into a human in Enoch's dream. There's judgment, everything restarts, you know that story. And then we speed through Israel's history with like Abraham and those guys, and they are represented by sheep. Now these sheep keep making the wrong decision and they keep messing up. So God appoints 70 shepherds to watch over them. Here's the gag. The shepherds are corrupt. They let the sheep just fall into the traps. They don't give a damn, okay, at all. This is supposed to represent corrupt leaders, failed leaders, things of that nature. Then shit speeds up in Enoch's dream, and it's the end times. It's the final judgment day. I'm talking books are open like in Revelation. Wicked animals destroyed. Even the shepherds are judged. And then enters the powerful white lamb, okay? And he defeats all the beasts. This is supposed to represent Jesus. He protects the sheep, he restores order, and then Enoch sees this new earth begin.
What became clear to Enoch was this: human history is not random. The rise of corruption, the abuse of power, and the suffering of the innocents. These are all not like chaotic accidents. They are part of a pattern, a moral story unfolding across generations. During each period of growth, people fall into sin. Then there's a moment of judgment and a build towards a larger purpose. Through the animal apocalypse, Enoch could see the moral lessons of humanity laid bare for everyone to witness. He could see knowledge being misused, ambition going unchecked, and rebellion against the divine order rippling through time. And he could see the consequences of ignoring God's guidance. Those consequences, of course, being what they had always been: chaos, corruption, and then eventual correction. Finally, the vision made something absolutely clear to Enoch. Even when evil seems to dominate the world, it never escapes God's awareness. Every act of violence, every injustice, and every deceptive scheme is seen. And eventually, every era reaches its turning point. Justice comes, and order is restored. For Enoch, these dreams were a revelation of pattern and purpose. Humanity may appear to be wandering in chaos, but from heaven's perspective, history is a living story moving toward a final conclusion. One where corruption will ultimately be judged and righteousness restored, just like it always has been. After witnessing the dream visions that laid out humanity's patterns, Enoch received another revelation. This one was structured, deliberate, and precise. The Book of Enoch calls it the prophecy of the 10 weeks. Unlike the symbolic animal apocalypse of like the earlier section, this prophecy was a timeline of the world, divided into 10 great quote-unquote weeks. These were not like a 7-day, week system as us humans count them today, but instead just like vast spans of time, representing major eras in God's plan. So it's like major stages, essentially, not literal 10-week spans or like 10-week sections, okay? Through this vision, Enoch was shown the full arc of humanity, where it began, how corruption spread, and how ultimately it would be redeemed. The first week marked the earliest generations of humanity, the first stirrings of civilization. People lived close to the earth and very close to God. Order, innocence, and curiosity guided them. And in this week, Enoch himself was born, the 7th generation from Adam, and a man chosen for righteousness. His life became a turning point, a beacon amidst early human potential, carrying the promise of insight and divine witness.
Explaining the first week and part of the second from the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch states, "When he was delivering his letter, Enoch resumed his speech and said, I, Enoch, was born on the 7th day in the first week, and until my time justice was still strong. After me will come the second week, when deceit and violence will increase."
In the second week, the first cracks in humanity appeared. Corruption spread like a shadow across the earth. Violence, deception, and greed began to take root. And humanity started drifting away from the order that God had intended. This week set the stage for one of history's most dramatic upheavals, and that, of course, being the Great Flood. Divine judgment, once avoidable, had become inevitable.
To understand what is said about the entire second week, we can look to the Ethiopic version, which is where we will obtain all Ethiopic translations of this prophecy. And after me there shall arise in the second week great wickedness, and deceit shall have sprung up, and in it there shall be the first end, and in it a man shall be saved. And after it is ended, unrighteousness shall grow up, and a law shall be made for the sinners. Enoch 93:4.
The third week marked a new beginning. Humanity restarted through Noah and his descendants. And for a brief period, righteousness rose again. Communities were rebuilt, crops grew, and the earth began to recover. This era was a restoration of order, and like a fragile and gentle return to balance after a major catastrophe.
For week 3, the Book of Enoch states, "And after that in the third week at its close, a man shall be elected as the plant of righteous judgment, and his posterity shall become the plant of righteousness forevermore." Enoch 93:5.
In the fourth week, guidance came in a more formal way. Laws, teachings, and sacred principles were given to humanity. This was the era when divine instruction began shaping societies, and like laying the groundwork for moral structure. Humanity had been warned. Obedience leads to life. Rebellion leads to chaos. Choose your path wisely.
Describing week 4, Enoch says, "And after that, in the fourth week, at its close, visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen, and a law for all generations, and an enclosure shall be made for them." Enoch 93:6.
The fifth week marked the rise of sacred spaces and institutions. Temples were built. Spiritual centers were established, and worship began to be organized. Humanity sought to anchor itself closer to God, attempting to contain holiness within walls, rituals, and sacred traditions. This was a time of aspiration, of striving to embody divine order in tangible ways.
Next, Enoch says about week 5, "And after that, in the fifth week, at its close, the house of glory and dominion shall be built forever." Enoch 93:7.
But the order could not remain upright forever. In the sixth week, corruption returned. Leaders grew prideful yet again. People abandoned the truth. Institutions weakened, humanity drifted from the path, and chaos seeped back into the world like a silent, creeping flood.
Concerning week 6, Enoch states, "And after that in the sixth week, all who live in it shall be blinded, and the hearts of all of them shall godlessly forsake wisdom, and in it a man shall ascend. And at its close the house of dominion shall be burnt with fire, and the whole race of the chosen root shall be dispersed." Enoch 93:8.
Then came another turning point. In the seventh week, the remnant appeared. Righteous individuals rose up to resist corruption, to teach wisdom, and to call people back to truth. Like flickering torches in the darkness, they reminded the world that justice and righteousness were possible, even when evil seemed to dominate everything.
Week 7. The Ethiopic version states, "And after that in the seventh week shall an apostate generation arise, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate. And at its close shall be elected the elect righteous of the eternal plant of righteousness, to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation." Enoch 93:9-10. What we have from the Dead Sea Scroll version states, "But all their deeds will be at fault. At its close, the chosen ones will be selected as witnesses of the justice from the plant of everlasting justice. They shall be given wisdom and knowledge sevenfold. They shall uproot the foundations of violence and the work of deceit in it, in order to carry out justice." 4Q Enoch 4:11-14.
The eighth week saw justice gaining momentum. The righteous grew in strength, and the systems of corruption began to crumble. It was a time of awakening, when balance began returning to the world, and the effects of rebellion and chaos slowly started to fade.
We can move on to the 8th. The Ethiopic version states, "And after that there shall be another, The 8th week, that of righteousness, and a sword shall be given to it that a righteous judgment may be executed on the oppressors, and sinners shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous. And at its close they shall acquire houses through their righteousness. And a house shall be built for the great king in glory forevermore. Enoch 91, 12 through 13. The Dead Sea Scroll version reads, After this, the 8th week will come, the one of justice, in which a sword will be given to all the just, for them to carry out just judgment against the wicked, who will be delivered into their hands. At its close they will gain riches in justice, and there will be built the temple of the kingship of the Great One in his magnificence for all eternal generations. 4Q Enoch 4:15 through 18.
By the 9th week, judgment expanded. Evil no longer hid behind wealth, power, or deception. Corrupt rulers and hidden oppressors were exposed. Truth became clear, and structures built on lies began to collapse. Humanity was learning the cost of its choices, and the scale of divine justice became unmistakable.
The Ethiopic version says, And after that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world, and all the works of the godless shall vanish from all the earth. And the world shall be written down for destruction, and all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. Enoch 91:14. The Dead Sea Scrolls version states, And after that, the 9th week, in it will be revealed justice and just judgment to all the sons of the whole earth, and those who act wickedly will vanish from all the whole earth, and they shall be hurled into the eternal well. All men will see the just eternal path. 4Q Enoch 4:19 through 22a.
Hands up if you think we're in the 9th week. I'm just saying, what do I know? But I'm just asking a question.
I'm about to blow your mind. Do you want to know the coolest thing about this book, the Book of Enoch? It was not only written for us, but for many of us, it was written about us. The Book of Enoch was one of many books that was removed from Scripture. Men behind closed doors, power-hungry men, money-hungry men, claimed that this was not of the Scripture. It was heresy. But we know better than that, because it is truth. And what is truth? Well, in truth and in wisdom, there comes power. And now those men behind those doors, they can't have that. And so, the Book of Enoch was gone. But before we go any further, did you know that the Book of Enoch was actually discovered with the Dead Sea Scrolls? Now, how did that happen? And biblically, scripturally, it says that 2 or 3 must be a witness for it to be considered true. The Book of Enoch is referenced 3 times in the Bible. But this book was not only written for us, it was written about us. Many of us. Those of us that have discovered it again. Now, I don't read books like others do. I don't start from the beginning. Oh, I tried that with the Bible a few times. But that's just not the way my brain works. And my Abba knows that. So I grabbed the Book of Enoch and I opened it to a page that I had never yet seen before. I can't count how many times I've almost thrown my book out of excitement because it happens every single time my father answers me. But before I read this to you, I need you to understand something. The Book of Enoch had been taken away, discredited, mocked and scoffed, but more so told to others, if you read that, that is blasphemy. That is not the word of our Father. And so man, behind those doors, took away the Book of Enoch from the eyes of the world for generations. That is until just a few years ago when people like myself, we happened to stumble upon it again. All in God's time, right? So on that day when I prayed to my Father, Father, am I really supposed to stop sharing the Book of Enoch? Is this wrong? Is this bad? He led me to this. Behold, from their seed shall arise another generation, much afterwards. But of them, many will be very insatiate. Allow me to explain that just a little bit. Now, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. This is talking about the generation who will find this book. And from their seed, our seed, will arise another generation, our children. And just to put that into perspective, because I know I look like I'm young, my oldest son is 30. Again, I don't want to hurt anybody's feeling, and it's not your guys' fault. In fact, my husband and I were just talking about this the other day. Insatiate means never pleased. Some might say, always looking for reasons to never be pleased. Always looking for reasons to be angry or a victim. Again, this is not your guys' fault. This is how the world had raised you. And that's the part that really hurts my heart. Plus the fact we got to take a little bit of the credit here for that. Your parents were Gen X. We had latchkeys. We raised ourselves. And though my parents loved me with all of their heart and soul, they worked and they worked hard. And with that, we were left alone. And with that, knowing how to raise a child, well, we could only figure that out through what we learned on the Brady Bunch. No joke. Family ties. Who's the boss? But it isn't your fault. And it is exactly the way the world wanted it to be. I digress. Behold, from their seed shall arise another generation, much afterward, but of them many will be very insatiate. He who raises that generation, that's us guys. Ooh, I got goosebumps. He who raises that generation shall reveal to them the books of your handwriting of your fathers to them, to whom he must point out the guardianship of the world, to the faithful men and the workers of my pleasure, who do not acknowledge my name in vain. And they shall tell another generation, and those others, having read, they shall glorify thereafter more than the first. We shall reveal the book again, a generation far ahead. The generation who raises the insatiate, say that again, Auntie. The generation that shall raise the insatiate generation shall find and reveal the writings of this book once again. Oh, I love you, Abba. Y'all, our Father is all-knowing. He knew that man at some point was going to snatch these writings, these truths out of our hands, out of our sight. Call them blasphemous, heresy, lies, I tell you, look away, don't read those. But in truth, this is, well, it's one heck of a collection of truth. In fact, many would argue that without much of this truth, there is no way to make the truth in the other book, the beautiful Bible, ever make sense. How can you put together a puzzle when you don't have all the pieces? And I consider the Book of Enoch all of the edge pieces to that puzzle. I write in my Bible and all my books all the time, but I never go back and read what I wrote. But I think this time I might. God, Yahweh, it's Yahuwah, I didn't know that then, knew that man would remove and discredit the Book of Enoch and other books from the canon to try to separate us from our Father, lying about his creation and deceive the whole world. But I'm just going to say I got to scratch that Yahweh out, also knew much later another generation, our generation, we would rediscover the Enoch's writings, dust them off, and begin sharing all of the truths in these books again with the world in the end of days. Oh, I'm reading this for the first time. I am one of those people. God led me to the Book of Enoch, and it is true. Oh, I was so excited that day. Now I share with my millions of followers on TikTok, my family. This book wasn't just written for us. This book was written about us. We are that generation. We are the chosen generation. We are the peculiar people, and many are of a royal bloodline, a priesthood. We are the ones that Yah said would find this again one day. I don't know about you, but that's pretty incredible. To know that our Father was thinking and knowing about us. He chose us, and he wrote about us in the book that they tried to take away. In the book that he knew one day we would all find. A generation far ahead. Behold, from their seed shall rise another generation much afterward, but of them many will be very insatiate. He who raises that generation shall reveal to them the books of your handwritings of your Father. To them to whom he must point out the guardianship of the world. To the faithful men and to the workers of my pleasure who do not acknowledge my name in vain. FYI, taking a name in vain means not saying it, rendering it useless and powerless. And yet, our Father's true name was yet one other of the things that they took away from us, along with the Book of Enoch. When they removed our Father's name from the Bible 6,800 times and replaced it with the word Lord. Yeah. And they shall tell another generation, and those others having read shall be glorified thereafter more than the first. The truth is out there. You just have to fight like heck and be fierce enough to find it. And when you find it, my friend, you need to share it.
Because I definitely think we're in the 9th week, just based on the explanations that I have found and came across and, saw. But you let me know what you think. Finally, the 10th week arrives. And this is the culmination of the prophecy. Corruption is purged completely. Justice is fully realized. And the world is restored to its intended order. This is the era of final judgment and renewal, when creation itself aligns once more with God's original design. A new beginning arises, where righteousness is the foundation, and peace is possible.
To conclude the apocalypse of weeks, the Ethiopic version of Enoch states, "And after this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there shall be the great eternal judgment, in which he will execute vengeance among the angels, and the first heaven shall depart and pass away, and a new heaven shall appear, and all the powers of the heavens shall give sevenfold light." Enoch 91:15-16. The Dead Sea Scrolls version renders this passage as, "And after that, the 10th week, in its 7th part, there will be eternal judgment and the moment of the great judgment, and he will carry out revenge in the midst of the holy ones. In it, the first heaven will pass away, and there will appear a new heaven, and all the forces of heaven will rise throughout all eternity, shining 7 times more." 4Q Enoch 22b-25a.
For Enoch, this prophecy tied together everything that he had seen. The rebellion of the Watchers, the corruption and violence of humanity, the judgment of the flood, and the rise and fall of civilizations. History, according to the 10 weeks, is not a chaotic series of random events. It is a divinely orchestrated journey, moving with purpose toward restoration, justice, and ultimate alignment with God's plan. Every era, every rise and fall, and every act of obedience and rebellion is part of a pattern that leads to the final renewal of creation, and like the final judgment for every being here. After seeing the long timeline of human history laid out through the prophecy of the 10 weeks, Enoch's visions turn toward the ultimate conclusion of the story. Not merely another era, and not like another cycle of like rise and fall, but the final resolution to the corruption that had plagued the world since the rebellion of the Watchers. The Book of Enoch makes it clear that a moment would come when every hidden act, every shadowed cruelty, and every abuse of power would be exposed. Kings, rulers, and powerful leaders who had manipulated, deceived, and enslaved would no longer be able to hide behind their wealth, status, or influence. I'm talking all of it. The networks of corruption, the secret sins, the silent suffering would all be brought to light, according to the Book of Enoch. Enoch's visions reveal that this judgment is administered through the Son of Man, the same figure who appeared in earlier revelations. He is not merely a judge, but a restorer, a divine agent through whom the broken world will be made whole again. In his presence, the structures built on violence and deceit collapse, while the righteous are lifted and vindicated. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. But this is not simply a story of punishment. It is a story of renewal. Enoch sees the earth itself transformed. Rivers, once tainted with blood and sorrow, flow clean and pure. Fields, scorched by war and neglect, bloom once more. Cities that had echoed with greed, fear, and domination now stand as beacons of justice and harmony. The very mountains and valleys themselves seem to breathe a sigh of relief, as though creation itself had been holding its breath, waiting for this very moment. The fallen angels remain bound, imprisoned beyond the reach of humanity, their rebellion finally contained. The spirits of the Nephilim, restless and violent in life, are scattered, stripped of all power, and unable to haunt or tempt mankind any longer. Humanity, once teetering on the brink of self-destruction, is granted the chance to step into alignment with the divine order that had always been intended for them. Enoch witnesses not chaos, but deliberate transformation. Every act of injustice has been accounted for. Every hidden cruelty and all corruption that once festered unseen has been revealed and corrected. Even as the final judgment unfolds, there is still mercy. This is a restoration after all. So there is life being renewed. For Enoch, the vision is overwhelming in both the scope and the clarity of the message. The rebellion of the Watchers, the devastation caused by the Nephilim, and the cycles of human corruption that seemed to never end, at least from an earthly standpoint. And, the rise and fall of civilizations. All of it culminated for this very moment. And here, at the climax of creation's story, Enoch sees a world reborn, vibrant, ordered, and aligned with the divine. Completely aligned. This vision that Enoch has leaves no doubt. Justice has prevailed, and corruption has been erased. And the world that was once broken by rebellion and sin is finally restored to the way that it was originally meant to be. A new heaven, a renewed earth, and a living testament to the balance, mercy, and unshakable order of God. Enoch's journey ends here, standing at the edge of a transformed creation, carrying the knowledge that chaos is never the final word. Through him, this revelation is passed on, and it serves as a reminder that even in the darkest times, divine order, restoration, and justice always endure. Always. After witnessing everything, the fall of the Watchers, the destruction of the giants, the wandering spirits of the Nephilim, the hidden structures of heaven, the patterns of time, and the promises of final judgment, Enoch's role as a messenger neared its completion. He was never a warrior. He was never a king. He was something rarer, something much deeper and far more profound. God chose him to see what no ordinary human had ever seen before, or could ever see again. At least while we're human, anyway. He chose him to learn what few could understand, and to record truths that stretched far beyond his own lifetime. Truths about the cosmos, about heaven, about the consequences of rebellion, and about the fragile, dangerous potential of humanity itself. Enoch walked among men, that much is true, but he carried the vision of angels. He carried the weight of forbidden knowledge, the memory of the giants, and the echo of the spirits that were left to wander. And then, one day, his earthly path came to an end. In the scriptures, his departure is described in the simplest yet most mysterious terms. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. No death, no decay, no farewell beyond those words. Just the sudden, unexplainable transition from the world of men to the realm of God. A step into a reality that he had spent his life observing. A place beyond all corruption and beyond all chaos. But before Enoch left, his final charge was extremely clear. The visions that he recorded were not merely stories of the past, or like an old man hallucinating, right? They were a guide, a warning, and a very clear pattern. The fall of the Watchers showed the danger of crossing divine boundaries. The Nephilim revealed the destructive power of violence when left unchecked. And the wandering spirits of the giants proved that corruption can outlive its creators. And yet, even in the midst of all of this chaos, Enoch saw order. The heavens moved with precision. History unfolded according to design. Justice was inevitable, and restoration was coming, and still is coming. Enoch's life, his witnessings, and his writings were meant to remind humanity of something essential. Knowledge without wisdom completely destroys. Power without humility corrupts. And freedom without responsibility leads to complete chaos. And yet, if humans pay attention, if they remember, and if they walk carefully, they can still step into the light. Because Jesus is the reason, the way, and the light. All you gotta do is walk to him and he'll show you how. The Book of Enoch tells us of a world that nearly lost itself. A world where angels crossed forbidden boundaries. Where knowledge meant for heaven was given to mankind before we were ready. Where giants walked the earth, leaving destruction in their wake. And of course, the flood represented way more than all of us were led to believe. It was a reset. That much was true. A chance to restore what had become unrecognizable. To separate what should have never mixed in the first place. And a chance to remind humanity of the order that they were meant to live within. Whether you read it as literal history, as a myth, or as spiritual allegory, the message is strikingly clear. Unrestrained knowledge and corruption disguised as normalcy. This is the human story before the flood, and the warnings echo forward and can be heard even today. For centuries, the Book of Enoch was preserved, and then eventually hidden, removed from most Western Bibles, censored, and questioned. Was it suppressed because it contradicted later theology? Or because it dared to ask questions that those in power did not want answered? I'll leave that answer up to you. Either way, the story survived, the visions remain, and the warnings endure. And the final question, the one that Enoch leaves for all who would listen, is very simple. If the world could fall so far before, without even realizing it, what are we failing to see now?
You ever notice how every ancient culture talks about gods or beings from the stars that came down to earth and taught humanity things we weren't supposed to know? The Bible calls them the Watchers, and Enoch said they descended to earth, broke divine law, and mixed their blood with ours, creating the Nephilim, which were a breed of giants, half gods and half men. And here's the thing, every civilization that rose after that, Sumer, Egypt, Babylon, claims they were guided by beings from the stars. Coincidence? Nah. The Book of Enoch says these Watchers, or Nephilim, taught early man how to make weapons, cosmetics, and astrology, the kind of knowledge that could flip power overnight. Sumerians talked about the Anunnaki, sky gods who came to create mankind and rule them through kings. The Greeks called them Titans. The Norse had Jotnar, and Native Americans, they had the Star People. Different names, same story. Something definitely came here, and we've been living under their descendants ever since. Here's the part they don't want us to talk about. Giant skeletons have been found, from mounds of the Midwest to caves in Afghanistan. Bones over 10 feet tall, skulls way too large to be any normal humans. Newspapers from the 1800s even reported on it, until the Smithsonian showed up and took everything. After that, silence, lost records, vanished artifacts. Any photo or article you find from that time period, you'll be told it's a hoax. You see, when the flood came, yeah, the global reset story that literally every culture shares, it was said to wipe out the hybrids, the Anunnaki, the Watchers, whatever you'd like to call them. But maybe it didn't. Maybe a few bloodlines survived. About 13 to be exact. That's when you get the ancient royal families, the divine right to rule. Pharaohs calling themselves sons of the gods. Fast forward to modern times, you still see these bloodlines running the show. Blue Bloods, the Crown, banking dynasties, families that never lose power. Maybe the Watchers didn't just leave knowledge behind. Maybe they left the hierarchy. The elites have always been obsessed with symbolism, and you see the same symbols everywhere you look. The all-seeing eye, the serpent of wisdom, the winged sun. You see it in secret societies, banks, hospitals, airports, even government buildings. Maybe the Watchers never really left. Maybe they just went underground, and their descendants are still running the show. Same blood, same power, same plan. Only difference is they've traded their temples for towers, and their thrones for boardrooms. So maybe giants didn't vanish. Maybe their legacy still rules the modern world. So the question isn't if they existed, it's who still carries their blood, and what are they planning next?
If you haven't heard about the insane connection between the United Nations headquarters where it's located and the fallen angels of the Book of Enoch, then make sure you stick around. Strangely enough, the United Nations headquarters is located on Mount Hermon. And coincidentally, when you read the Book of Enoch, the fallen angels, there was 200 of them who descended on the days of Jared in the summit of Mount Hermon. Now, as if that's not crazy enough, the location, the latitude and longitude of Mount Hermon is 33.33 east and 33.33 north. Then we take a look at the United Nations logo, and if you see the individual sections here, if you count them, there's 33 sections. What a striking coincidence. We know in Freemasonry, the highest level that you can achieve is 33 degrees, which is why they use this number in everything. Mount Hermon was also very close to the mountain that Jesus ascended on, and Jesus was crucified at 33 years old. What's even more interesting about this story is Jesus dies at 33. You have 33 vertebrae in your spine, and there is an oil called Christos that goes up and down your spine every 28 days. When it hits a nerve called the vagus nerve, which looks like a cross, it dies for about 2.5 days and resurrects in your body 3 days later. Isn't that incredible? The story of Jesus is written in our bodies alone. Perhaps it's all metaphors, who knows? Anytime you see the number 33 in these major events that continue to happen throughout our whole history, you know it's the fingerprint of these people that control the United Nations, these people behind the closed doors. The 33-hour manhunt has continued, or it's over now for Charlie Kirk. Symbolism never lies, and it's always in our faces. United Nations is a small group of people who control everything. By the way, they use a flat earth map in their logo too, just to laugh in your face.
Enoch really does help you understand what's going on in the world now. It seems mystical to a lot of people, but elites drinking scared children's blood seems mystical too, doesn't it?
A what?
I'm talking about what's going on right now.
Did you say elites drinking?
Elites drinking.
Oh, elites. I thought you were talking about leeches.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Elites drinking. That seems mystical too, right?
Yeah.
Enoch just helps you to understand the times we're living in a little bit better.
Okay.
But I do think start with your Bible. Anyway, it was taken out, but it was in the original Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a lot of Christians who still treat it as scripture. But anyway, neither here nor there. To move on from that too.
Yeah.
4 angels, like generals, in charge of the Watchers. The Watchers, I mean, that's literally why the flood happened. Because corruption, like DNA was so corrupted to the point of like not being able to be fixed. That's why God flooded the earth.
Just like wars and craziness.
Yeah, it was terrible because, I mean,
I don't like it now.
Yeah. Anyway, Josh actually said that the other day. I'm starting to understand why God flooded the earth. And I'm like, that was actually wild for him to say.
Like, if you don't think it's bad now, it's because you're watching the wrong news sources.
Forbidden knowledge to teach humanity. What that all entails, we don't really know. To me, it kind of fits in with AI. There's a lot of things right now, like genetic mutation that they're doing.
Are you saying, like, do you think that it could possibly be like a historical, but also a prophecy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
God says that.
We do know
what's been done will be done again, right?
We're humans, and we're not going to learn from our mistakes.
People think of as it was in the days of Noah in a very surface level way, right? Okay, so we'll be eating and drinking and marrying when Jesus comes back. True. But also, Jesus was very specific about the things he said. And I feel like to understand what he meant by that, you need to understand what was happening in Noah's day.
Yeah.
So, corruption of humanity. There's these bloodlines. Hold on right here. Okay, so there's these 4 angels at the bottom of the Euphrates River right now, the generals that I just told you about. The Euphrates River is also drying up. Lowest it's been in decades. Doesn't look like it's going to come back up, but we'll see.
So that's my full breakdown on the Book of Enoch. And honestly, wow. Just thinking about all of it over again, like everything that the Watchers allegedly taught us, the forbidden knowledge, the part where they mated with humans and created the Nephilim. I don't know about you, but this stuff absolutely blew my mind and continues to live in it rent-free. And like, I'm not even mad at it. It can stay there. Like, I just can't stop thinking about it. This shit hit me as hard like Satan's Little Season did. Like, what? I hope you guys are into like the biblical truths as much as I am, because I am feeling such a calling to this lately. It's gotta be God. Like, I dead ass cannot explain it any other way than that. Like, I am being called to share these messages. So share I will do, okay? I'm just gonna keep right on doing it. So hopefully you're enjoying them just as much as I am. Cause like for me, it's like a fucking loop that I can't shake. Like the more that I think about it, the more that it makes sense. And how like most things in this world probably might actually connect to like this ancient story in more ways than you might think. The Book of Enoch literally answers so many like lingering questions that humanity has about like society and about like why are we here? And, you know, like what is our purpose on earth? Like what are we supposed to be doing here? Literally the Book of Enoch answers it all. And I think that's why it was removed. It is insane the amount of knowledge and truth and just like mind-blowing information that is in there. It really truly is insane. This is another one of those, like, it would be really hard for me to cover every single topic covered in the Book of Enoch in one video. Like, I'd have to do, like, several videos on it in order to, like, actually cover every single piece of information that's in it, which I'm absolutely not against. Like, as of lately, I'm so into these, like, biblical stories and, like, biblical truths. I don't know. It's like God is pushing me towards it himself, because lately it is so interesting to me. So if you guys would like me to do, like, a full breakdown on the Book of Enoch, where we could do, like, a video per chapter and, like, just totally explain the ins and outs of everything, I'd be absolutely willing to do that. Just let me know. But this, as of right now, is just kind of like a brief overview of what information is contained within the Book of Enoch, because I thought it was fucking insane and I wanted to share it with you guys. And personally, my husband has never heard the Book of Enoch, so I really wanted to make this video for him, because I don't want him to hear it from anybody else. I want him to hear it from me. But like, I've already taught my daughter about this, and it is so fucking interesting to me. So I wanted to share it with all of you as well. But yeah, let me know if you want like a deep dive and like actually breaking down like every single piece of information that is found in the Book of Enoch. I would absolutely be willing to do that. So just let your girl know. Now's the part where I want to hear from you. What part hit you the hardest? What was the craziest, most mind-bending thing that you learned from this video? And if you are like a pro on the Book of Enoch and I got anything wrong, or like you can add any context to any part of this story at all, please, by all means, drop it in the comments. I genuinely want us to get this story right together. I think it is so fucking important, and like I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this. And for anyone who made it all the way through this insane journey, leave a little 200 down in the comments. You know, just a little nod to the story, just to let me know that you stuck around with me all the way until the end of this video. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop on out of here because like my throat is hella sore from talking so much. My goodness. But I appreciate the hell out of your guys' time. Seriously, I love you all so much. And side note, I have a list that I've been putting together of deep dive requests that I've gotten from viewers in the comment section on like previous videos. So if you have any, requests that you want to see me do a deep dive on or like anything like that, drop a comment, let me know. Maybe do a hashtag next to it, like hashtag deep dive or hashtag deep dive idea or something like that. That way I can go through on YouTube Studio and I can just go through my, like each video and I can search for comments like by keywords and I can do like, deep dive, whatever. And then it'll pull up all of your like ideas that you want me to do. You know what I mean? That way I don't miss any, because sometimes it's hard to like go through every single comment. I try to keep up with them as they get posted, but like I go back to old videos and there like are thousands of more comments there than there were when I like originally was like posting it and like interacting there. And it's a lot to keep up with. So that would make it much easier on me. If you have a deep dive, topic or whatever that you want to see me cover, just put like a hashtag, deep dive next to it, or deep dive topic, whatever the hell, something with deep dive in it. So I know, and it's easier for me to find them. But I just want to let you guys know that I have been seeing the requests and I have a list together right now. I don't have it in front of me, so I couldn't tell you what I have so far, but I know that somebody suggested the 764 cult. Somebody suggested the Lost Tribe of Dan from the Israel deep dive we did a couple weeks ago, just stuff like that. So I have like 4 or 5 on the list, I think, already. But if you have any more, drop them in the comments, let me know. And I'm officially going to stop rambling and hop on out of here. So I love you all so much. Be kind to each other. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!